I would like to call to order this meeting of the Board of Selectmen for the Town of Woodbridge, regular meeting of November 13th, 2024. We will open at 5:02. Start off by just a few remarks. I'd like to thank our registrars, our deputy registrars, our poll workers for their commitment and dedication during Election Day. We had a very the early voting worked out very well. More than half of our voters actually voted in early voting, which made the election day very smooth, and there wasn't any kind of a significant rush. Things seem to have gone. There are a few little things that some residents brought to our attention that will help us learn and be better next year, but as a group, they did an exemplary job here in Woodbridge, and very thankful to them for that. We had a very successful Veterans Day ceremony this past Monday. Deputy Selectman Steve Munno gave a speech at that, and was in my place. I was traveling, and from what I understand, it came off very, very well. It was very well attended, and again, thank you to the community for participating in that. That's very important. One of the very important events that we hold every year. I just wanted to make mention that Connecticut is putting together a Connecticut 250 committee to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States in 2026. And they've asked all the municipalities, all the communities in Connecticut to form a committee. So we're in the process of doing that as we stand right now, but it's something you'll be hearing a lot more about. And there will be people who will be notified along those lines in terms of the participation on the committees. They've outlined some recommendations as to who we should have, but you'll be hearing more about that. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I also wanted to bring to your attention that the town, you might be hearing that the town is interested in a piece of property at 1875 Litchfield Turnpike that has come up for sale. It's a piece of property that connects to our trail system. It borders on state property, state park, and it also borders on on a piece of our property. It's a piece of property the town has looked at in the past. The seller seems to be interested in they're willing to work with us, and the state has a first right of refusal as a matter of course because of where the property is located and the way that it does border a state park. But it's something that we are very actively looking into to see exactly what can be done, either by the state taking it or by our town taking it to preserve it and use it to connect some of the trail systems that go in that area. So that's something that we'll be working on. And today you'll be hearing from someone who's going to join us from our CT Main Street, Connecticut Main Street organization that we just recently engaged with to help us in our business district specifically in terms of identifying and providing us assessments. It's kind of a membership type of a fee that we pay to be part of it, but you'll hear more about that as time goes on. And with that, the next item on our agenda would be our report from Superintendent Bonzatenza.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Good evening. I will start just by recognizing our veterans. I know that we have actually some in the room. And, in our school, not every district is in school during Veterans Day. Some school districts celebrate it by having a day off. Our district is in school, and we honor veterans in a variety of ways, and it is an important day. We had a veteran come in and speak to our learners in two groups. We had children interviewing and hearing from veterans in their classrooms. We have a very large display in the shape of an American flag of individual cards of veterans. I was reading about our very honorable Dwight Rowland on our wall. There are a lot of family members and friends listed on our wall as well. So I think it is important that our children learn about service, and I do think that it is wonderful for us to be in school. Our fifth graders put on a white table presentation to their peers, and so we had a lot of people serve, and I just wanted to say thank you because it's an important month. In terms of Beecher Road, we are perking along. Our enrollment, I always kind of start with that. We're at 867. So it starts at the beginning of the year and then it grows. It might dip a little bit in the winter and then it usually surges by the end of the year. And so just a reminder that at the September Board of Education, the Board of Education did add not only 4 additional paras in the August meeting, but in September they added an additional grade 1 teacher. That teacher will be starting the first week in December, and parents have been kept apprised regularly of that process and the next steps. And I just call that to your attention because as we are working on our budget for next year to share with you, our number and percentage will be different than the number that we had approved by you in the previous year. So it will be a little bit bigger because of those additions. So we don't anticipate anything else huge on the horizon. Roof and Grounds, our construction company is back from their little vacation, helping our Connecticut state roads get back to ship shape. And so they're back and they are committed to trying to end before the end of the year in December, with some possible seeding needing to be completed in the spring. So we are hopeful that that remains on track. Our Beecher Infrastructure Upgrade Building Committee continues to meet. Dr. Madonic chairs that. Antonazi and Associates recently met with small groups of our staff from all of the different departments and stakeholders, learning information on how our school is used and areas that individual staff members feel either should be expanded upon or could be expanded upon, space that we have perhaps that might not be utilized efficiently, so that we could look at those spaces as well. So we continue to meet, and I believe that Dr. Madonic will continue to keep us updated, but I also wanted to put a little plug in that we are continuing that work. And they are in the process of analyzing information to share at some community dates, either probably in December or January, I believe, maybe late January. It just gets mushed up in the budget, so we have to look at that as well. So we want community input, and they are eventually developing some options for us to consider. Very important to us, we had our Teacher of the Year ceremony, and last week we honored Amy Meacham, 3rd grade teacher from our school up at the Bushnell in Hartford. We were in a room with superintendents and Teachers of the Year from all of the districts, and it was powerful. The Teacher of the Year selected to represent Connecticut is a teacher from New Haven, and I'd love to see if I could get her to come talk to our children. She has a very strong project-based learning platform, and that is part of our strategic plan in terms of helping create learners who communicate and think and work collaboratively. So I'd love to have them, our staff here from our Teacher of the Year across Connecticut. Just last night, we had a community forum to explore our new literacy resources that we purchased with grant funds. And we had about 45 parents come last night and really dig into resources, look at what our K-3 learners are using. And it was very exciting, a great turnout. And to end, I don't know if you were aware, but our 5th grade had a wonderful civics experience a few weeks ago. They had the Connecticut Kid Gover Election Rally bus tour come through. And, I've actually benefited from this in a previous district before. Your district has to be picked. And they kind of create a little route, and they visit 10 districts a year. And 5th graders actually have platforms. They pitch. They run for election on their platforms. It might be, animal rescue projects or, just road improvements in their school. They have platforms and they have videos, and the children then go and listen and vote. And the elected governor has a cabinet, and they have an office up at the State House, and they meet there monthly. And it really is a nice civics lesson for children to understand at their level what the whole process really is without getting them into the politics of what we live in. So it was very exciting. The bus pulled up and it was a big rally. So they learned quite a bit, and they actually knew every single trivia question that was asked.
My son answered one right, and I got the ticket to the State House. It was his favorite day, hands down, of the year. Like, he has not stopped talking about
It was powerful.
Charlotte's also.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like,
Very
"Gee,
powerful.
this kid came on a bus. Like, I guess the coach, but like, it was,
It was fancy.
Yeah.
I think it was incredible.
They
It
were
was fancy.
excited to vote for the different platforms
I heard
and
all
like,
that.
yeah,
It's such a great thing.
it was like, what a great immersive civics lesson.
It was. We were fortunate to be picked.
Thank you. Is there any questions, or some comments? Thanks for that. Thank you very much.
I'm going to listen to the rest of the meeting.
Our next item on the agenda is the Connecticut Main Street with Michelle McCabe. She did call in and indicate that she's caught in a little bit of traffic, so with your consensus, we will move on to our next agenda item until she comes in. And that next item would be the Community Center Building Award bid. Community Center Building Bid Award. Not sure what I said there for a moment.
And it's only 5:15.
So we have Sandy Stein, who's been chairing the building committee, and David from Silver Petroselli.
And I told Bob Tucker definitely 5:30 because I expected the Connecticut Main Street, so he'll be here. Anyway,
Sandy,
thank
if
you
you feel,
for
we
entertaining-
could do something else in between if you
No.
wanted, wait, okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
We'll proceed. So we are back, as promised, back in August with a request to you. We did actually send the project out to bid. And so I wanted to walk you through what our recommendations are to you. And you do have a couple of items in your packet that refer to what our recommendations are. And the first is the actual budget for the project that Tony prepared. And we do have a project budget of $2,111,583. That is what's left from the initial grant funds and the ARPA funds that you appropriated to this project. We did receive 6 bids, and I believe you have a bid summary also in your packet. And those ranged from 1.9 million to 2.9 million for the base bid for the project. And Tomlinson Hawley Patterson, or THP, from Trumbull, Connecticut, was the low bidder. And they have been in business for over 100 years. And Silver Petrocelli has done many projects with them over those years, so knows them quite well. And David did conduct due diligence with THP, confirming their base bid and their understanding of the entire project. And he has prepared a letter of recommendation, which you also have in your packets, for a lump sum fixed fee project. So our project budget is the 2.1 million that I mentioned to you. The base bid from THP is $1,968,758, and that would give us a remaining $142,825 from the project budget dollars that we have available to us. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the fact that you need a contingency for any type of building project. And so that 142,825 represents 7.25%. Normally, a contingency ranges between 5 and 10%, so this really falls kind of right in the middle of that. So based on how much of the contingency that we actually need, the town may need to provide us with a minimum of the $50,000 for furniture in the building, as well as funds for audiovisual and technology, phones, and security in the building. We're not asking you for that right now, but we want to make you aware of the fact that this is a very tight project, and we really won't be able to occupy the building unless we have the furniture and fixtures and the other items. So as we get into the project, and we will try to manage it the best that we can, and there may be dollars that become available through the project management to be able to fund this, but we anticipate that we will probably need a piece of contingency or other budget dollars that aren't needed for this year. The other piece of information is that Dwight Rowland, who is sitting behind me, has graciously agreed to oversee the construction as the town's representative. And we can't thank him enough for his willingness to do this. It is so important that we have the town's representation there and overseeing and making sure that what we want built actually gets built. So our overall schedule is to mobilize the project by March 1st of 2025. And it could be earlier if the old firehouse is empty, but it really can't start until the old firehouse is completely vacant. It will take about 14 days to buy supplies and equipment for the project and to secure the subcontractors. Then the construction will start, and they are anticipating it will take 180 days to actually do the work. So the project completion is anticipated to be August 14th, 2025. That would be the opening of the building. So our Community and Cultural Center Building Committee, which is myself, Bob Tucker, and Andrea Weinstein, want to recommend that the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen approve the bid award of $1,968,759 to Tomlinson Hawley Patterson of Trumbull, Connecticut, as presented to you. So I don't know if you have any questions about that, about this recommendation in particular. David is here to answer any of the architectural, structural, procedural questions.
I can ask
Yes, Sheila.
one question since you're here. So you mentioned that there's some items that will, if contingency allows, be included, but if not, will need to be separately funded. And I think I heard you say the furniture and some of the
Security, telephones, those systems are not included in the construction bid.
so telephones or wiring for telephones, is it both or?
So we built in basic infrastructure for all of this, general power, wiring, so forth, so it's really just what's categorized as
Devices.
furniture, fixtures, and
Okay.
equipment.
All right, but the wiring will be there because
Yes.
that's part of it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay. The other thing that I want to point out to you is that there will need to be created some type of operational budget for the building for 2025, fiscal year 2025. And we anticipate that that would include an estimate of utilities, custodial, and supplies that are needed to run the building. There does need to also be a plan for operational oversight and management of the programs, the events, and the building itself. And that needs to be considered for implementation in the early spring, so that as the construction starts and it's monitored, that the building actually meets the requirements of the person who's going to really organize and manage the programs, events, and other activities there.
Thank you for your hard work and time on this. Can you, I believe in August when you were here last, we discussed that operational cost and piece. Do you have any estimate of what that might be at this point in time?
No.
Okay. And refresh my memory, because I know I asked this in August and I looked back at my notes and I must not have typed in the answer, but what data, if any, were collected to inform the use of this space? Like, how do we know it'll be utilized as it was so thoughtfully designed to be?
So the way we started out this whole project was not necessary to collect data per se, but to go to the library, human services, recreation, and at that point the community council about activities and programs and events that they would like to see happen, but that their current space did not allow them to have those events. And so that's where all those ideas came from, and we included indoor and outdoor. So that's where our outdoor plan also comes into effect, but we're not asking for approval of that at this point.
And the three primary spaces within the building are designed to be flexible and interchangeable depending on the variety of ideas that are even shared, whether that's from yoga classes to instructional spaces to lecture-based learning to, a variety of other uses.
So with
So
the
it could essentially ebb and flow as the programming and vision of the space is better defined.
excellent. So understanding you said develop an operational oversight plan in the spring, maybe. And this might be outside of your charge, but is there a vision for how that might function? Like, my fear is we get this up and running and it's a struggle to find. So
Our committee has
Yeah.
not actually addressed that. I think, though, that there are several ideas on the table that will be shared, but not by the building committee per se. Again, our goal isn't to add FTEs or to add expenses. I mean, you can't add a building without adding expenses.
True.
but you can really look at realignment of responsibilities, and coordination, partnerships between existing positions and departments, that may show a different way of how to proceed with this. I think this actually presents a great opportunity to really relook at how events of this type, including all of the entities that I mentioned, might collaborate better together and join forces to do things.
And that departmental realignment that Sandy's referring to is something that we're in the process of looking at right now with the hope of having something in place and in front of the Board of Selectmen in the spring timeframe for consideration. But it will be looking at our existing departmental organizations and seeing what can be done to assure that there's a dedicated resource putting time and energy to this specific space and how we can best utilize it.
I do think it would pay to think about it before the springtime. I think there has to be a proposal that's adopted at that point, because there are probably some budget implications for
Certainly.
multiple departments. And also you want to have the people in place to be able to start working on this so that when the building opens, it's really open, running, and functional.
Agreed.
But I view it as an opportunity for us. I really do.
Tony, can you refresh our memories, or at least mine, on, so we have this money in hand, these grant monies, a 2.1,
So we were awarded $2 million in an urban action grant and then an allocation of $334,000 in ARP funds.
Okay.
Those are the two sources.
so, which we had, and that needs to be spent by a certain,
The ARP funds need to be spent by, or obligated, not spent,
Okay.
need to be obligated by 12/31 of this year. And the urban action funds need to be spent by 12/31 of next year. So we're on target to do that. And the ARP funds have to be spent by 2026.
thank you.
Okay.
My last question.
Sure.
Speaking to the architecture, the look of the building, maybe just because I'm a hometowner here and I've come to love the look of the old firehouse, and it's such a focal point. Last you were here, it looked much different, more modern, and I'm wondering if that is set in stone, where we are with
So
that.
the entryway itself, because that's what you're referring to, the rest of the building doesn't change
Okay.
at all from the outside. Except that maybe there will be bricked in over the doors for Bay 2. But that was bid as an ad alternate,
Okay.
not as part of the base bid. So we do not have funds to do that. It also turns out that SHPO did not approve that entryway. So if we can have something designed that is less, or I should say, more similar to the building itself, we will try to do that. And that may just be an overhang, because that's important in terms of people knowing even where to enter
Yes.
the building. And again, this is on the Grove side. This is not on the street side that people see when they drive by. So personally, I would like to do something with the entryway because I think it needs to be more welcoming. But we will see what happens with the dollars for the budget. But that's not in there at this point.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
I think you bring up a good point in that this is a building that people see. It's kind of the focal point in terms of when you're entering our town center. So it would be nice to have it vibrant and utilized. It's, I think, the key to what we're looking to do here, so.
Right.
And I'd just like to thank you and your team for putting a lot of time on this. It's been a long time coming. And, geez, I can't remember exactly when we had the fire at the firehouse, but it's,
2006.
so that, yeah. So it's been quite some time, and it'll certainly, I think there'll be a lot of people very happy to see progress and see something completed there so that it's utilized space again.
Absolutely.
as opposed to just for storage, which is what we're using it for now. And I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Dwight for your, for being so gracious as to do this. Certainly, you've helped with a number of other projects, and thank you for that.
So if we can, we would like there to be approval this evening to award this bid.
I'll make a motion to award the bid for the Community and Cultural Center to RFJ Associates, Thompson, Hawley, and Patterson for the base bid of $1,968,758.
A second.
Any additional questions or discussion? All in favor?
Good timing.
Just in time, Bob.
Thank you very much. And we
Just in
look
time for-
forward. We're looking forward to keeping you abreast of the project and for being able to open in August of 2025.
We did say thank you, Bob, for your commitment and stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you very
very
much.
much.
Thank you. Our next item on the budget is to ratify the state of emergency burn ban. On November 1st, we issued a state of emergency declaration from my office that bans all outdoor burning of fires in Woodbridge until such time as the state of Connecticut is no longer under a state of emergency due to dry conditions and increased fire danger. I'll now ask for a motion from the board to ratify this emergency declaration.
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
I'd also like to mention that additionally, the governor declared a Stage 2 drought advisory for all of Connecticut, and we are asking residents to voluntarily take action to minimize future drought impact by shutting down automatic outdoor irrigation, minimizing overall water use by fixing leaky plumbing and fixtures, and by following any conservation requests issued by local water suppliers and municipalities. As you know, most of our town depends on private wells, fire irrigation ponds, and other highly localized water resources. And so we need to be especially mindful of the local conditions. So, any other comments or discussion on this?
Yes, I'd like to just add there's been a total of 178 fires reported throughout the state in just the past 2.5 weeks. 58 of those are ongoing, meaning they're requiring constant monitoring. I did send you a link to the fire dashboard. If townspeople are interested in keeping abreast with the state of emergency, maybe that can be added to our website, or if it's not already.
I think it might be already in terms of the ban, but if not, we will make sure it is.
I haven't put the link to the dashboard that you provided because I wasn't sure if that would, but I'm happy to add that
It
to
is
our announcement. that's out
publicly
there now.
accessible.
Perfect, I can do that.
Yeah, and so over half municipalities have instated a burn ban, so thanks for being one of them.
I followed up with our fire department. They've gone out to a number of different, multiple homes where they're either burning leaves or doing an open bonfire with their, whatever the case may be. So it is something that I think we could try to communicate with our neighbors if we do see it, so that the fire department doesn't have to necessarily be engaged in that type of activity. But if there is an open fire, the fire department will respond, and they will look to extinguish the fire. So really appreciate our residents taking heed to this and helping out the situation.
Local fire departments are first to respond, and then deep forestry and deep staff assist as needed and follow up to make sure it doesn't spread, initiate fire breaks, etc. And I'll just add that most of these have been human created, and a little bit of rain is not enough. We need inches, and we need inches to come over steady periods of time, not a heavy rainfall. The ground needs to soak it up. Snow would be ideal. So don't be deceived by a little precipitation is my
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions? All in favor? Thank you.
Timing is impeccable.
You're just in time. I'd like to introduce as our next agenda, we'll go to number 3 on the agenda item, and I'd like to introduce Michelle McCabe, Executive Director at Connecticut Main Street, who will, who's agreed to just give us some basic information in terms of who they are and what we're engaging them and why we're engaging them. So thank you very much for coming, Michelle.
My apologies for being late. I left Hartford at 3:45, so there you have it. But so glad to be here. My name is Michelle McCabe. I'm Executive Director of Connecticut Main Street Center. We are a statewide nonprofit, and we are also a state coordinating program of Main Street America. So our work is rooted in making downtowns, main streets, village centers, neighborhood commercial districts in communities of all sizes, vibrant, wonderful places to live. Walkable, roads that can be shared by all users, arts and culture, economic vitality, all the things that we imagine when we think of the heart of your community that, you know, we all enjoy and treasure and identify with. Those vibrant communities, they do not happen by accident. They are a lot of hard work to maintain all of these different pillars, to have them acting in concert like an ecosystem. And so it requires constant cultivation, it requires vigilance, it requires deep relationship building across all kinds of sectors, from property owners to municipal departments to the businesses that are located on those main streets. And our role is to give communities the tools to be able to enact that kind of management structure and style that allows these communities to flourish and to be resilient in the face of changes. And we have, this organization was founded on a change when all of the downtowns in our American cities and towns were decimated by movement to planned suburbs, to malls, and all of that. Now it's thankfully shepherding a new era of people being interested in those walkable downtowns, but we are addressing a pandemic, we are addressing changes in people's office attendance behaviors, et cetera. And these Main Street programs, they're here to respond to the changes, and Connecticut Main Street is here to bring best practices to communities so that they can take advantage of a lot that has been tested nationally into their own communities. So Woodbridge, I know you all have done a ton of work to create plans, to re-envision how the downtown can look and act. And as a partner with you, we are here to bring our expertise to allow for that management to make those plans a reality. I don't know how much what we do has been introduced. I have a team of 7 people. The person that this community is going to get to know the most is Carl Rosa. He is our field services director, and he has 20 years of Main Street experience personally as being a Main Street manager in downtown Waterbury. We come into communities, we sit with them for at least 2 hours. We go on a walking tour. We see what things look like on the ground. And then we conduct a robust 85 data set assessment that we conduct on an annual basis. The assessment tool is based on a methodology called the 4 points. That's what Main Street America has created and tested for decades. It's a very successful way to manage. It's looking at your downtown's design, which is streetscape, lighting, banners, mobility, wayfinding, all of that. It looks at economic vitality, which is what are your vacancy rates, what are your business clusters, how are arts and culture doing, all of that. Promotion, how are you marketing your downtown, not only for people to come as a visitor, as a resident, but also are you looking to recruit new businesses? All of that is in marketing and promotion. And then finally, organization, which is who's steering the ship? Do you have a management structure in place? How are they doing? So we have 85 questions, as I said, that are based on each of those 4 points. And communities get a score of 1 to 4 based on what the responses are. And it is not at all subjective. It's based on very clear objective criteria that we're asking. So if you get, let's say, a 2, which is needs improvement, you know exactly why, and you know exactly what to do going forward where you can make adjustments. The assessment at the end of the process, you get a report, and that report breaks down our recommendations, and it organizes them according to these are fundamentals that you're going to want to get to right away, intermediate that you can get to, sometime in the future, and advanced, that you can push off further. And it basically delivers a work plan for the community to follow. The assessment has hyperlinks to resources that we have online, and Carl and our team is available for questions at all the time. We go and visit our towns constantly. All you people need to do is pick up the phone, and we will provide whatever support is necessary. And like I said, we come back every year. So this assessment tool, we designed it about 2 years ago, so we're on our 2nd year of doing assessments, and every single community has improved, and the ones that have a management structure in place tend to perform better. Having said that, a management structure is something that gets built over time. Most of our towns don't have an independent Main Street program in their communities, but many of them are aspiring to that, and our role is to help make that a reality when a community is ready. So that's the long and the short of it. Happy to take any questions that you might have about our work and our plans.
Michelle, what are some of the communities you're working with?
Oh gosh, we are working with close to 60 communities.
Okay.
So communities like Middletown, Ridgefield, Danbury, New Haven. I'm thinking of what are some of our Chester, Torrington. I'm trying to think. We have a lot of smaller towns that are escaping my Hamden. Towns of all sizes. So the method of management really can be applied no matter the size of the community. Old Saybrook, Mansfield, Manchester, New Britain. I could keep going.
We're obviously putting an emphasis on our business district and working with our Economic Development Commission, working with 2030. The fact that we were granted the Lot Zip grant puts us in a position where I think it's the ideal time to bring in a group like yours, specifically to provide us to do the assessment first, tell us exactly where we should be putting some focus and things of that nature. So look forward to learning more about the management structure so that we can be one of those that does things quicker, but thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I think it's just great. The timing is wonderful because a lot of time communities have projects and they get project funding, and the projects end up being done in isolation of sort of a vision for the entire ecosystem, the entire, area, because it's going to affect all those things. And
Right.
Projects are more successful if they are understood in the context of a larger plan. And we specialize in helping communities with plan execution. So we are not an organization that will come and say, here's a revitalization plan, and I've delivered it to you, and it can go on a shelf somewhere. Like our work is in helping communities to execute, and that's really what the assessment is about too.
I have a question about timing. So it sounds like a lot of these concepts would align with our plan of conservation and development, which is we're working on now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that these projects will dovetail? I wasn't clear on what timing we're expecting.
Yeah, yes, because I know that we are, as soon as a town joins and everything is processed, then Carl sets up the appointment. And so it can happen in, a matter of a week, 2 weeks, something like that, that the assessment happens, and then usually, sometimes depending, it may be a site visit first, it's a conversation, it's a walking tour, and then Carl will come back and actually sit down and do the full assessment, and then usually takes them about a week or so to turn the assessment report around. You receive the assessment as an email, and then Carl calls and follows up and will walk you through every step. We sometimes will come and present. So if it's, for example, an Economic Development Commission, or if it's a team of people representing different sectors that are working on this together. Carl can come and sit down with the group and then walk through the assessment and answer questions and so forth.
And do you have any specific experience about working in a POCD context, or do you just keep it separate?
No, I mean, we actually are working in Thomaston right now. Thomaston is a member, and I think they're already on a second assessment. They were in our accelerator program, which is a whole other thing that I can describe at another time, but it's briefly teams that will apply with a project or a problem in mind, and then they go through a 6-month curriculum, and if they are successful, they get a small grant to implement. So Thomaston has been doing a lot of work. They are in the process of their POCD, and we came just last week. We went to one of the meetings that was focused on an element that had to do with their downtown. So we went to that public forum so that we could, provide some perspective. And actually, the Naugatuck Valley COG is heading up that process right now for them, and we're going to be conferring with them in December about some of the findings to help with the POCD. We're involved in another project with the Northwest Hills COG, and that one is based on their SEDS, which is kind of like the COG's version of a POCD in some ways. It's like the regional economic plan. And our work is directly plugged into what they have outlined they want to do in the SEDS. So we're very comfortable aligning the work, especially if your POCD is focusing on your Main Street area, then this is an awesome tool for you to be able to inform that process.
That sounds great.
What's the cost of your services?
The membership, I want to say it was $750 for a year. So our membership structure for municipalities is based on population. If we're working with a nonprofit entity, it's based on their budget. And then we work with cities that are multi-district, and we work with regional members that are also in a different category.
And what's your experience assessing and integrating green infrastructure into Main Street planning?
That is part of our assessment, asks questions that relate to green infrastructure and sustainability. We have 6 tenets that are integral to a successful downtown, and sustainability is one of those 6. So and a lot of the assessment questions actually overlap with some of the sustainable CT questions when towns are applying to get the certification. Thank you, Allison. Yes. So we are very much sort of in alignment with those goals.
Great.
Michelle, thank you very much.
Can I actually have Michelle explain how she works with different groups in different towns based on how they're structured? So, how do you do this? I think that's important for the board of selectmen to hear. I mean, yes, you can make your recommendations to them, but it's important to have a group, a person within the town, and giving some examples of that from other towns would be helpful.
Okay, I think I understand the question. You can correct me if I go astray. So I'm going to describe sort of the ideal scenario, but I don't want it to, but to be clear that this is not the case in many of our communities. I would say it's the case in about like 10 or 11 that we work with, where you have a dedicated entity that is 100% focused on the Main Street. It could be a nonprofit Main Street program. It can be, if it's a business improvement district or a special services district, the property owners that pay the extra mill pay for a staff person that manages the downtown, and various things in between. And that person's role is to bring together stakeholders and to keep an eye on, again, all of these different elements that happen in a downtown so that they can be kept sort of on track. Now, most towns, as I mentioned, that is not their structure. And so depending on the community is who we end up working with. There's usually, I would say that more often than not, at this stage, it's a municipal entity that has taken the lead, at least in being our contact person, but they often do not work alone. So we work with economic development commissions, we work with economic development directors, we work with cultural district commissions, We don't have this yet, but I would not be surprised if this happens in the future, that we might be working with a merchant association. It could be a chamber of commerce. But that person, truthfully, that entity is the organizing structure around the stakeholders, because Main Street is a collaborative effort. So even if we're working with, for example, an EDC, we are talking to them about how are you pulling in your planning and zoning? How are you pulling in your property owners? How are you pulling in your small businesses? And typically, we instruct, it's great to form like a group that meets regularly, that can get divided into committees, that can focus on each of these pieces that I described of the 4 points, or they can tackle the assessment report as a group. And part of our job is to train the people. When we come in, we tell you who you need to be talking to. And if you don't have like a single person that can work with all of these folks at this time, then we tell you, here are the people that really should be around the table as you get this initiative going. I was just in Stonington, and they just joined last week, and the folks I met with was the head of the borough, the head of the Merchants Association, 2 very motivated business owners, and the head of the Cultural Commission, who happened to be in this meeting to have the conversation. And they will probably be the same people that are going to be working on this until and when they decide they may want to move over to a downtown commission or a nonprofit, whatever it might be. So, and I will say, and this is something that Carl will go into more detail with, he will also tell you the people that are helpful to have at this assessment that can answer certain kinds of questions, so that if it's something that, let's say, one person has only a narrow experience with, there's someone else that really knows about this other element, you'll know to invite them to be able to give the lowdown on whatever piece of the assessment report that is.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. I hope the ride back is much better.
I don't know. We'll see, hopefully.
So, thank you very much. I really appreciate
Thank
for you making the trip down here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Our next few items are specific to individuals who will be giving us some information. So being that I don't see them here, I'd like to move to the number 10 Town Council report, since we have some time prior to public comment.
Thank you, Mika. Good evening, everyone. Nicholas Bamonte, Bertram Moses. So obviously we have a pretty big agenda here. I don't have all that much to update. I'll just say we did hold our ordinance subcommittee earlier today. This board can, I believe, anticipate seeing versions of the proposed housing ordinance to establish the proposed housing commission, and also the revisions to the EMS commission, which were relatively straightforward. It should be on track for this board's review and consideration and discussion at its next meeting. Just picking up also on one of the questions that came up at the last meeting regarding the Board of Finance member appointments. I did yet another deep dive into our charter, and where I'm coming out on this is we don't have the authority to appoint Board of Finance members, and this only applies to the Board of Finance, but Board of Finance members to any other board, committee, commission, whether it's established under our code or whether it's an advisory ad hoc. I think that's really the only way that we can slice it when you look at how the entire charter is set up. It seems to me, and I've seen this in plenty of other charters as well, that there's a specific intention to call out a specific type of board member, and normally I see it as Board of Finance members for reasons we can all understand. There's a call out in the charter that says, okay, we don't want Board of Finance members serving in a membership capacity on other boards, commissions, and I don't see enough in there to make a distinguishment from our ad hocs, our advisories. So I think that's just where I'm coming out on that one.
Nick and I have discussed this, so it's something that we have to take up based on our existing structures, and we do have some folks who are currently engaged in other committees, primarily ad hoc committees, building committees, including Dwight. That's not to say that they can't function in other capacities, whether it's a liaison role or something along those lines. So we're looking into exactly what we do from that perspective as well, so as to be able to obviously leverage the skill sets that are available to us, and those people who want to participate in certain elements. But when we discussed this, it was felt that better to be on the side of caution than necessarily to try to stretch it and find out that we shouldn't. So we're going to see what we need to do to rectify the situation as it exists now.
Can I just ask one question? Thank you, first. You mentioned just Board of Finance. Was there also a similar provision for Board of Selectmen in just a separate part of the same document?
It does apply to, yeah, I believe that's true for Board of Selectmen as well.
So Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance.
Right. The question we were talking about was Board of Finance
Right.
last week.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Nick.
So is there a way to, because you verbally told us this, is this going to be like in our minutes or something? Will we be able to sort of memorialize this in some way so that we don't end up asking the question, 2 years from now, we ask the question again? We wouldn't want to have to do this deep dive all over again, right?
You put it in the minutes, I
So,
can
yeah.
send a separate email or memo, whatever works better for the board.
Certainly.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Otherwise, I think those are my highlights for now, at least. So.
Appreciate it. Okay. Still got a couple of minutes. Tony, I'm not sure. Maybe we can do your monthly report?
Sure, I'm happy to. I have a monthly report through October 2024. There's a few highlights I'd like to share. It's a slight surplus of $20,000, which, given we have an $800,000 allocation from our fund balance, would decrease the fund balance at the end of the year by $780,000. We would be at slightly under 14% for our percentage of our expenditures. The highlights, interest income tends to be generating a surplus as of now. I'm monitoring that closely depending on how rates perform in the next few months and the remainder of the year. But as of right now, we're trending slightly ahead of where our projection was and where our budget was. We have currently have a projected deficit of building permit revenues and transfer station revenues of $40,000 each. The building permit revenues will depend on the schedule and timeline of construction and could change. And so those are some of the revenue highlights. And again, we're monitoring our electricity accounts, and we'll probably have some to cover some deficits in some of the departments, although in some of the larger departments we try to cover a deficit from within department first before we go into contingency or some other source of funds. So those are our highlights so far, not too much so far this year.
That's good.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
It'll be difficult for us to get into the ARP funds, I think, at this
Right.
point in time.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
So I'd like to move to the Personnel Committee. We can move there. And then we'll go into, so Sheila representing, Andrea representing Personnel Committee. Do you want to? Everyone has the information.
Don't even have it in front of me. Sorry. So I guess we can just report out that we forwarded 2 requests on to the full Board of Selectmen for consideration, and I believe all that material is in your packet. Do we want to take that up now, or what do we want to do? Or are we
I
just
think
reporting?
yes. No, I think we do want to take it up.
Have we gotten, and pardon me, for looking at my phone and for asking this question. I've been busy responding to fires, but have we gotten the updated information from the fire department?
We did.
Okay.
We did. Yes.
So do we want to start with the library piece first?
Please.
Okay, so we had a request regarding the head of children's services and to make the children's services associate. So Eric Workman had come to us with a request. Actually, he'd first come to Tony, which is a key role here, because we take these recommendations also from Tony. And maybe, Tony, do you want to tell us a little
Sure.
bit more?
Certainly. So the first request was to the head of children's services was first. We had a head of children's services who was here for many years. When she retired, they sort of split the job between two people because one employee was just starting and didn't have the experience. And so there was another employee who was had experience, but not the library sort of degree that was necessary. So when they split that out, a few years have gone by, and the head of children's services, Emily Cantor, is now grown into the role, and the library director is recommending that we bring that salary up to where it should have been, or if we had the other individual in that role. And that would be to $60,484. So that would be an increase of $73.35 from her current salary. I will note that the other individual has reduced her hours, and therefore this will be paid for from within the budget. There's not necessary to go outside the budget to cover this increase. Sort of reallocating the funds.
And then, Tony, there's also a...
So the second one is something we'll have to take off the table because the employee is going to be leaving the town. So.
Oh, okay. And that's also the library, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the second library one you can we don't have to act on.
So for now, can I make the motion to approve the library's request that the head of children's services, Emily Cantor's salary be increased for the fiscal year 25 budget amount of $53,149 to $60,484, an increase of $7,335.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. The second one, Tony, do you want to go over that real
Certainly.
quick?
The second was to a request by the fire chief to increase the fire marshal's hourly wage from $37.14 an hour to $48 an hour, which would align him with other area fire marshals. If you compare the fire marshal wages to hourly amounts to other towns of our size and of similar responsibilities, the board reviewed that information and felt it was appropriate to increase the salary of the fire marshal to $48 an hour.
I just want to add that aligned with comps in surrounding towns. And for the benefit of people's understanding, there's obviously a large cost associated with losing trained and qualified personnel. So that felt like a pretty...
And the fire marshal's a specific skill that's not easily
correct.
Easy to find a replacement for.
And a required position.
And required, absolutely required.
So it
Yeah.
felt pretty clear
Yes.
that was the right move.
Yeah, and a very valued asset for the town.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the change in hourly wage as set forth.
Second? Any questions? All in,
No, I was
No, I
just
seconded it.
voting.
You did.
I second.
I was like, voting. I saw it.
Just practicing early voting.
any additional comments, questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
The sirens
Sorry,
going off.
Allison.
Just in time, just in time.
Like, hold on,
Just,
Oh, it's not.
Then there's one more.
There's one more.
6:30.
The second item, request by the fire chief, was to present a one-time stipend to Tina O'Connor for services in recognition of services up above and beyond her position. And the fire chief has sent additional information outlining what those duties were and how invaluable she was in many projects in the department. And I would agree that she has taken on these extra responsibilities, and is definitely, I would recommend also the stipend for Tina O'Connor for $4,500.
And that detail did show, it's all very well detailed in our packet there. So I'll make the motion to approve the request to increase the fire marshal, the one-time stipend of $4,500 for Tina O'Connor for services beyond her position.
I'll second.
Is this expected to continue?
It's a one-time stipend.
Okay.
And it is something that, but to your point, it is something that's happened in the past in these circumstances where there have been specific type projects where in order to either get them done or things that needed to happen, folks had to do more than what their job title might entail. And so it's not as if it's never happened before
Right.
or it never will happen again. That's not the
correct.
case.
We have done this in the past for employees who have gone above and beyond their positions, responsibilities.
Is it possible for the fire department to create a buffer in their budget for things like this?
If we approve it, I suppose they would be able to.
But like
that's a good
manage their
suggestion.
budget in a way that allows
So what we can encourage the fire
for-
department to do is to try to reallocate resources to maybe help to fund this particular one-time item, but not to put in a buffer for something that may or may not happen.
What I'll suggest is that's, Tony's actually saying we've indicated to them in this particular instance that, and we've indicated to anybody who comes in to try to do what library did in their case and try to fund it through changes in their budget. And it's something that we will continue to make sure that any department head that comes forward with this type of request understand before you come, make sure you're doing that. So to your point, yes, it is something that is important that we
I don't remember
communicate.
them explaining how they tried in our meeting, so maybe I missed that.
No, this was subsequent to the
So
meeting.
moving forward, I want that to be a prerequisite, as you just said, to help manage things a little bit better.
I mean, it seems to that point, it seems, perhaps if at the beginning of the year or during, when they're creating their budget, they know that they need scheduling, they know that they need to onboard new vendors and new systems, that they build that in, at the beginning of the year. I mean, if something comes up in the middle of the year and they don't know that they're onboarding a new system, that's understandable. But, for all the departments, if they feel that they're gonna need extra personnel hours, due to replacing processes or replacing software, et cetera, something to consider building in.
Good point.
No.
No, we haven't voted yet. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. That's, I think, the last item on the Personnel
That's it.
Committee.
Correct.
And we will move to public comment at this point in time. Excuse me for the few minutes that we are late, but is there anyone here for public comment? Would anyone like to make public comment? And to officially do it a third time, is there any public comment? So seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which will be an introduction to our town planning resource from Goman York, who will provide just as a way of an introduction, so this board gets an opportunity to meet them, and also provides us some information as relates to what they're engaged in and what their capabilities are. So with that, I introduce Justin and Brad from Goman York. And Brad, you could just grab a seat, please. Yep. Thank you. Do you want that or no?
Yeah, you could put that up there.
You're gonna need, is your laptop there, or is that your laptop, or no?
Oh, no.
Oh, you don't have this one. I'm sorry. Sometimes people bring their own drives. I didn't send this one to my secretary.
So I'm sorry, I don't know if
Let's
I've
do the
got-
introductions.
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Which
But
one
we're
is
gonna-
which, yeah.
Okay, I'll start out. First of all, I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for this opportunity to introduce ourselves and for you to get to know us and a little bit about our company. My name is Brad Senft. I'm the Executive Vice President and CFO for Goldman & York. And with me is Justin LaFountain. He's Senior Planner and our Director of Economic Development. And he's also the project lead for all of our work with Woodbridge. It's going to go off the slides, but you can just go ahead without the slides.
Well, tell, Justin, why don't you just, a little bit about your background, maybe?
Sure.
Or if that's not on a slide, is it?
No.
Good.
So, before I started with Goldman & York, which was in July of this year, I was a municipal planner for about a decade. I was with the Southeastern Council of Governments for about 5 years, where I served as the planner for Salem, Franklin, some work with Stonington Borough, various towns in that region. Immediately prior to Goldman & York, I was the town planner for Weathersfield, and prior to that I was the director of building and land use for the town of Bloomfield. So I've had a variety of experience in planning and economic development over the years, and very excited to be working with Woodbridge.
So I can just go over the history. We don't even need the slides.
Sounds good.
So Goldman & York was founded in 2011 by Mike Goldman and Tom York, with Mike Goldman overseeing our advisory and consulting services, which is what we represent, and Tom York overseeing our real estate brokerage services. And while we both operate under the same umbrella, they're very much separate divisions. Mike Goldman, who heads up our advisory services, has over 40 years of experience in real estate development. He's developed tens of millions of square feet of real estate across all asset classes across the United States and into Canada as well. As a matter of fact, he's originally from Canada. His last position was at Simon Conover, where he was the CEO and president, and he oversaw 4,000 employees, along with, I believe, 20 million square feet of assets, both in real estate development and real estate management. And when Mike left Simon Conover in 2011, he founded Goldman & York on the principles of really utilizing real-time and historical market data and financial data to develop realistic, actionable, and financially feasible solutions. So that's really our foundation in all the work that we do. And Mike's been quoted many times saying, projects that are feasible get built, financially feasible get built, while projects that are not financially feasible really just end up being pretty pictures on a shelf. And that's what we're founded on. So all of our solutions and our plans that we put together are based on realistic and real market data and financial solutions. Goldman & York was founded as a vertically integrated, multidisciplinary company. So we have professionals with many years of experience, not only in real estate development, but also in financials and financial analytics. We have planning specialists like Justin and Dr. Don Poland, who is a PhD level AICP, who oversees our planning department. We also have economic development specialists. We've been working with multiple municipalities across Connecticut for over 11 years. So we have a lot of experience with our on-call development services. We also have an in-house architectural planner, former architect, who function as a designer and site planning services to assist our towns in the redevelopment of and repositioning of properties. So
Brad, I'm just going to take a quick second for the board. The presentation is in your, in case you wanted to see it. So if
okay, we just won't go off the presentation. But take a look. Yeah, so we're vertically integrated, and we bring a multidisciplinary approach to everything that we do. So that kind of differentiates us from other individuals who offer just planning services or just economic development services. We bring a full suite of services, and our clients have access to everything that we offer with our contracts. With that, I'll toss it over to Justin for our Woodbridge specific.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been working on in Woodbridge and what we will be working on in the future. Our main task, as you know, is planning services. The town of Woodbridge hasn't had a planner in quite a while, so we will be taking on some of that role in terms of giving professional advice to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission to make sure that the decisions that they make and the review processes that they conduct are in line with not only state statute and local regulation, but also with planning theory and updated planning methodologies. So one of the things that we're looking at right now is the zoning regulations to see how, you know, cohesive they are, what improvements can be made, how economic development can be facilitated in the future with things like that, while also preserving the you know, the nature of Woodbridge itself. We know the housing is important in Woodbridge right now, so we're taking a look at what the different regulations are for that, how we can encourage more housing development in different parts of town where it's desired. And we're also working on a variety of economic development updates. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow night with the Economic Development Commission to sort of have an initial working session, determine how we can reach out to businesses, conduct outreach, retain businesses, and attract new ones. And beyond that, we also work on a variety of projects for the town. Right now, I'm taking a look at the strategic plan for the town, seeing how that can be improved and updated, and also working with the various consultants that the town has, including SLR on the POCD, Cooper Robertson on the golf course country club project, and anything else that comes up. I mean, the important thing to note is we really are full service and on call in terms of anything that you need. So we're always open to a call from First Selectmen to anything that you guys require.
You just missed Michelle McCabe from Connecticut Main Street, who we've membership, and I know you know who they are.
Right.
So, questions?
Can you define financially feasible?
So it's just based on market dynamics. The market is always changing. You know, specific asset classes are feasible in specific areas. So it's really doing the research, knowing your markets, knowing the market dynamics, knowing the current lending environment, and also the cost of construction and really what goes into the development process.
Are projections considered?
Correct, yes.
And in the context of housing and planning for housing, well, really any type of development, you're considering impact on services and that. Okay.
Yes, we also do a lot of what we call FEIS studies, financial and economic feasibility studies, economic impact feasibility studies. So that determines the impact on the municipality for the specific development.
So in the context of doing this work for Woodbridge, who's responsible for disseminating that information to boards, commissions? Do you relay that to us or Mika, and that gets,
Yep. So
like, how is that managed?
Our direct contact is Mika, so he'll contact me with whatever is needed, and then we refer it back through him, and he disseminates it to the groups. There might be cases where I'm working directly with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you know that'll go a little bit smoother. But in general, it goes through.
Planning and zoning is very much the exception because they do operate autonomously, if you will, from that perspective with where the regulations are concerned. And Justin may, for example, meet with and/or like he's doing with EDC, with other commissions as is needed, but information is disseminated the way information is always disseminated in terms of anything that comes through the First Selectman's office.
So I had a question. You mentioned the strategic plan. So there's some very specific elements in the strategic plan that we were hoping to get the kind of input that you're likely able to supply to us. I think that we had been trying to get a meeting of the strategic plan committee, so that's David and I and Mika. Maybe that can happen. I'm just trying to be mindful of the timeline of all the different things that are happening, right? And you're mentioning that you're going to be doing some interfaces with both the POCD process, obviously, the CCW process, the EDC, all of these various parts, which are all kind of referenced in our strategic plan, just to give you a sense of what the Board of Selectmen has said our priorities are. But the idea of getting your input and then being able to kind of talk it over maybe at the strategic plan committee level and then bring it back to the full Board of Selectmen in that format that we're used to and that we've been noticing on our meeting agendas, so that we can just get that update. So do you feel that the timing of this, everything is happening all at once, so how comfortable are you feeling with being able to jump right in and give us some of those recommendations?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the things I've already started working on is I gave Mika my initial thoughts on the plan, and I'll be working through a draft of some revisions to it within the next couple weeks. So it is all happening quickly, but that's kind of how we operate. So.
Okay, great. And if we can see the draft of that, we'll be able to also start considering.
Right.
Thank you.
And I'll be happy if Mika would like me to meet with that commission with you guys, that's all
Yeah.
fine with me too.
That would be great. Thank you.
So this might not have been your charge from Mika, but in your planning, how do you integrate like being climate smart, so to speak, in your analyses? Meaning, in terms of financial impact of certain land use decisions, in terms of reducing flood mitigation or green infrastructure, where does that come into play?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so that's something that gets considered at multiple stages. We take a look at it in terms of plan reviews when a development application comes in. We look at, you know, the different impacts it's going to have on different environmental habitats, different, you know, wetlands, floodplains, that kind of thing. But it also takes place in a much larger context in terms of long-range planning. So we look at it when we're doing the POCD, which again is not our work here, but we'll be working with SLR on that process. So we like to make sure that all of those things are considered. They often end up being a tool for economic development as well, because it's an incentive for people to work through that.
Great,
So.
thank you.
It was part of the charge, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know, so, thanks.
Additional questions? We're glad that you're on board with us. Thank you very much, and we're very much looking forward to the continued engagement here and seeing how you can help us move some of what we're doing forward, both in the business district and other areas of the town. So thank you very much.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excited to get started.
Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you.
All right. Adam Teff is I'm not sure why he's not here yet, but he's going to offer us some information as relates to the latest update as relates to solar at the transfer station. And there's some things going on there. It's positive news, so it's I felt it was important for him to be present and provide some information. Additionally, there's some other solar considerations that we wanted to bring in front of the board, so that'll be done next month. So I felt it would be more appropriate to have Adam come this month. So hopefully he'll be here. We'll certainly give him some time because I know he's coming similar to what Michelle said. He's coming from that way.
When he emailed me to confirm, we confirmed for 6:15, so.
Okay, so he might be a little bit tied up. So we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the CCW master plan update.
Are you sure you want to start this before he comes in?
Well,
We
at this-
skipped over it.
oh, I'm sorry. The DEI committee. I'm not seeing DEI committee here as well.
No, there's two more folks coming, I'm just here.
Okay,
They were told 6:30.
okay,
So maybe consent agenda?
sounds good.
Get that one out of here.
Which one, I'm sorry?
2025
On the meeting schedules, not.
Why do we do that?
2025.
2025 meeting review?
Every tab open at once now.
I see, yes.
Everyone's got a copy. Familiar with the dates? I think it just bears mentioning that one of the variations here, is it in, there we go. Has everyone had an opportunity to review this?
Yeah, I just had one question. So these were all kind of previously shared with us. Have we moved any, have you moved the cheese anywhere inside the maze? I wasn't clear.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No,
Well, we did reschedule
the
Board of Finance.
Those are the Board of Finance ones.
the budget.
Yeah.
We did reschedule a budget meeting
Right, so
to
February 12th.
avoid February break.
Right, right,
The same night as your meeting,
yeah.
right?
So we're gonna do that. It's gonna be a nice, long meeting. And then the 27th is not us. February
February.
27th?
No, it is, yeah.
Yes, we
That's
wanted, go on, I'm sorry,
Is
Steve.
that the due date or is that a meeting day? That's
The due date is the 28th, I think.
Yeah, actually, technically, you have to do it by March 1st. That's what the thing is, so 27th, I'm not aware of any, unless you want a second meeting, which is usually the
Right.
26th.
I'm away. I could maybe
So
do
it's not
that
really
virtually, but I don't
necessary.
think we wanted a meeting that week.
The only mention of a meeting was if the agenda is too long for the 12th.
Right.
Or if for some reason you need more time with the budget, you might need a second meeting, and I don't know if that was what the
We didn't
27th was
meet.
contemplated as?
Right, yeah, we
Yes.
didn't meet last
Right.
year for, it was a sort of a hold date if we needed.
Yeah, we're holding all the last
sure.
Wednesday, or the fourth Wednesdays, or whatever it is.
That's actually a
Um,
Thursday, but
But right now, so we're not scheduling a meeting for the 27th of February, are we?
we had scheduled a meeting. If it was required, we wanted to make it a regular meeting as opposed to a special meeting, which is a reason that it's on there specifically. Our normal meeting is on the 12th, excuse me. And if we weren't going to have a recommendation to the board on the 12th, we wanted to have the 27th available as a regular meeting, as opposed to, in case we wanted to add other items to it at the time that we were doing it or something like that, to schedule it as a regular meeting so that if we needed to,
Correct.
we could get the recommendations done,
Right.
and we could add anything we needed or wanted to add in February, we could add it at that
And if
point
you
in
don't need
time.
it, you just cancel the
And
meeting.
if you don't need it, we just cancel it, exactly.
So there would be the 12th, excuse me, possibly the 26th, and possibly the 27th, then according to this? Is that you may want to consider adding a meeting this month on the 26th, that's right above the,
I think it's possible that I read, I think this February 27th was on either the budget
Thursday.
calendar.
The 27th is not for us. I'm sorry, Allison, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I may have seen it on the Board of Finance combined ones and put it on this list.
We put ours on the
That may
20th.
not have to be there.
Well, the 27th is the finance board meets to make the budget recommendations, if I'm not mistaken. They meet on Thursday.
They don't meet until March.
Okay, they meet in March, okay, so, but the 27th it is the 26th, the Wednesday, the 26th would be the second regular meeting that we would schedule.
Okay,
that's the
so-
fourth
So
Wednesday.
this
Yes.
document, if we're approving this so it can be filed, which is what we're doing,
Mhm.
right? So I think we want to take out the last line of the paragraph under
February
February
20.
12 and just make it February 26 instead of 27.
Right.
You're intending it to be Wednesday night of that week if needed. So
Correct.
we're going to schedule it as a regular meeting. And I'll just note, I'll be away. I can probably join virtually, and
If it's
doing
required.
the vote, then for sure I'm going to want to join virtually. But if you're just doing miscellaneous things, maybe. But yeah, so it's 26, not 27, right?
It is the 26th that we would schedule at the Board of Selectmen, another Board of Selectmen regular meeting, correct?
Right.
I'll just also note, though we've met every month this year, probably multiple times per month. I know historically there hasn't been an August meeting. And sometimes that's been taken off, but we're setting ourselves up for having that for sure.
Yeah.
We're on pace to probably do twice that, but.
Should we also set ourselves up for 2 meetings a month to help manage the agendas and time thereof? What does the board think about that?
Well, we've already got multiple meetings because of the budget schedule in January, so I guess at least in the
Yeah,
budget
I mean,
season,
I
would
guess
wanna do that.
March
Wanna do it in
onward,
February.
I would be talking about after the budget season. Just throwing it out there, if,
Right.
considering how lengthy and full for good reason our meetings have been, would the board think it's a better path forward to kind of divide and conquer and have 2 maybe shorter meetings a month rather than 1 longer? Just throwing it out there as an option.
I think-
So the way the way the schedule works, I think you have to give the town clerk more than 30 days notice if you want to add regular scheduled meetings, right? And
Well-
after 30 days, it can still be regular, even if we decided in February that we want to start with March having 2 meetings a month. This isn't like the one and only time we can change our schedule.
Okay.
But to your point, Andrea, I think if we, again, resolve individually that fourth Wednesday of every month will be utilized, if, I can tell you, I can manage the agenda in such a way as if it looks like it's really important we get these items taken care of, we can schedule it. You know what I mean, as a special meeting. I understand your point,
Yeah.
and so that rather than being 10 o'clock one meeting, maybe we do 8 o'clock, 2
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
7 o'clock, 2 meetings,
That
so.
would, yeah, that is.
I understand your point, and I appreciate it, so.
Thank
Did we
you.
make any changes to this list that's here, date-wise?
Just what we talked about.
Just what we talked
Well, I couldn't understand any of
Oh,
that.
so-
I just wanna know if we made changes. So
So,
it's
well,
written
we
down.
are making a change to this,
We are
to
going
this
to.
list. We are making the change to this, so February 26th will be listed on this as a regular meeting, at a regular Board of Selectmen meeting. Where, you know, so,
But February 27th will not, so we're.
20, February 27th will not, correct,
February 27th is not a meeting.
correct,
Got it.
correct.
That's what I thought I heard you say, but.
Yep. And we have between now and March to determine if we really need to consider anything more.
Okay.
To
Right.
Karen's point too, if she was just for time, it would also reserve this room in advance,
Mhm.
Oh,
in
that's,
case we would need it, so like last time we ended up in the library. Not that we would make it, but it's another,
thank you.
and this doesn't have to get voted on until next month, I just wanted you guys to look over it.
Okay. So did you
I made
get the
change.
notes, the
Yeah,
notes?
and so I'll have it all cleaned up and ready for next month.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. With that, we will go back to our agenda, item number 8, and ask Adam Teff if he would come up and give us an update as relates to the transfer station solar. I think everybody remembers Adam from our previous
It's
meetings.
nice to see you again.
Nice to see everybody again. So the update that I have, in the last few months, a few positive things. One, we got the NRES award for the landfill project, so we applied, well, bid, I should say, into the program, and were awarded a place within it, which was huge progress. And then also, we've completed the interconnection application and have the number back from UI for what it's going to cost to interconnect the system to their power lines. So all of that said, we could put all the pieces together finally for the financial model for the project, which translates to a $60,000 a year lease payment for the town. That's fixed, 20 years, paid, each year. And also the ability to take on some additional revenue from the project just based on the way the NRES program is structured. The town could be eligible for an additional $20,000 on top of that. So all in, about $80,000 a year for the town. All of the variables that we really need to address in order to have a live project have been. So the EverSource, UI interconnection, the NRES, in which I would add, with NRES, so we bid into the program at the ceiling. So there is a cap at how much you can ask for from the utility, just sort of naturally to keep costs within line per project. And because we were concerned that interconnection would come back exorbitantly high, which luckily it didn't, we did bid at the cap and were awarded at the cap. So we got the maximum amount of incentive possible for a project of that size. So that's why the economics look the way they do for a relatively small, 1 megawatt project, which is about 4.5 acres or so. So all of the homework that we had on that project has been finished. The only other thing that we would ask the town for at this point would be to engage with us for the lease agreement, kind of bring the project, over the goal line and then ultimately get built. So that's my update, and where the project is at right now.
Just add on to what Adam just said, as far as the lease agreement is concerned, it is with our attorneys. We're meeting next week, I think, Allison, with our attorney from Bircham specifically to go over the details of that. He's given us we did get some feedback.
Sure.
And there's some things that we really need to discuss, that we will be discussing. So once we complete that, we'll be in a position to start negotiating, if you will, in terms of that. I believe you have a copy of it, but that does not include the attorney remarks as it stands right now. What he's provided is really remarks. There were very few actual edits made, but that we expect that to be resolved next week. So if you were going to summarize this for us in terms that the general public would appreciate, would you mind?
Sure.
Giving it a shot?
So, roughly $80,000 a year revenue for the town, zero cost, zero maintenance obligations. Nothing to be done except, kind of honor the fenced-in area. Obviously, the town would have access to that, but again, just for safety reasons, that area would be fenced off. Converting underutilized space that really doesn't have any other commercial purpose, I think, would be a really big win. Would help the town kind of make its mark on the sustainability front here in the state, which is, these programs are meant for towns to take part and also for redevelopment of these sites into useful assets for towns. So it's exactly in line with what the state wants to do. So it's very hands-off for the town. There's been zero expense to this point, and operationally zero expense moving forward. And it's basically shovel ready to go. I mean, all the hurdles that would normally kill a project, unfortunately, trying to get the incentive, dealing with the utility to figure out what they're going to charge you to connect to their system. We've covered all those. It's about as shovel ready as you can get, minus the lease agreement.
Thank you.
Is this something that goes to, do we have to send this to TPZ for 840 review, or?
We're using the public property. I think we ultimately would at some point in time.
But not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Correct.
So one more hurdle.
Yeah, so does that,
Close, yeah.
when I was reading this, I was thinking, like, would this require a special town meeting? Is that what you're at? No, you're asking something different.
No, whenever we're changing the use of property, we have to make sure with TPZ that it conforms with the POCD.
So would this require, though, a special meeting or potentially a referendum because it's over a 5-year lease? And I don't think it has an impact on our budget in terms of cost, which is one of the considerations there. But town council, do you happen to know?
I'll leave that to Nick, but I don't have an answer for you right now. I don't think that it does, Andrea,
Okay.
honestly, but we'll
We can
make
get
that
a
a point to
follow-up.
make sure we follow up and check on
Why don't we
that.
check
That's
on
part of what we'll do as we're negotiating the lease.
Right, so when we do the land leases for the ag properties, we talk about we can't do more than a single year because a lease of longer than a year constitutes a sale, so per our charter, needs to have a referendum. So that's been one of our hurdles for farmers in town for leases longer than a year. So
Town meeting, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'd imagine that would be applicable to this as well.
and I'll just,
Well,
you know,
Go ahead, no.
just wanted to note, this is a property, we presented recently about the potential to do a compost facility in this area as well that we envisioned would work in tandem with solar and would be, that these things could complement each other. So I don't know if you've had discussions, regarding that or
Yeah.
but it's something that, we don't know yet, but it is something we've explored, that this parcel, so the retired landfill, could serve both as a solar facility and as a potential composting site, which needs its own study in its own time, but it's something we are looking at.
Sure. One of the things too about this project, which, whether it's, if you're ever gonna need any equipment on this site that's gonna require 3-phase power, which would really be kind of anything, right? So like if you were considering putting,
Lights,
stadium lights and stuff, the solar project is gonna pay the $1.7 million fee to bring 3-phase power to this site. So you're kind of pre-solving a problem for the future for this site, which, I think could be, huge for the town to have that expense covered, because otherwise UI is gonna look to you guys and say, oh, you want 3-phase on site? Okay, here's your price tag for that. So,
should also be mentioned that the power generated from this farm would not be able to be used, for example, to light the lights, that type of thing, but it's.
correct, UI is taking all of the power,
Yeah,
so, you would need basically an independent service, a new service for lights if you were going to put them at that site.
So that's something to think about when we're looking at the lease, to make sure that we have the ability to do, like, something doesn't prohibit us from.
Oh, it wouldn't. You would basically, just like anything else, if you needed a new service from UI for a hookup there, you would just work directly with UI and they'd set that up independently.
So I have 2 questions, Adam. One is, talk to me about what this is gonna look like 21 years from now.
Sure.
And where all that waste would be going and how that'd be processed. And 2, if I understand this correctly based on what you just said, so we wouldn't feel a benefit, or realize a benefit in our electricity bills from this?
No,
Like,
this
we'd
would-
get
this
the
would be the
revenue,
revenue
and we would
from
feel the benefit in that way, but it wouldn't be offsetting our electricity use.
So, the way that the energy flows with this project is that it all goes back to UI. You could, if you wanted, have some component of this where utility bill credits would go to your various UI accounts if you wanted to set it up that way, or you could do it where just that, and this is in reference to that kind of extra piece above and beyond the
$20,000.
lease agreement, right?
Okay.
Getting distributed that way. So there's different ways that you could do it, but ultimately, I mean, the electrons themselves are going back to UI.
So a
It's
good way to
more
view it
just
is
accounting.
$60,000 is for the lease. It's
Yeah.
the land lease itself. The 20,000 is kind of, you can take it as a lump sum as part of, and you can make it part of the lease, or you can take it as a, what do they call it, the net?
Like a net metering credit. or
Net
a
metering
bill.
credit, so that we take it against our bill.
Yeah.
But
Again, this is, I mean, these are more just accounting issues, so as we kind of get through the lease itself, I mean, that's really the document that would mean the project, you know, kind of moves forward, so whatever way ultimately you set it up, that's fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then speaking to the waste stream, you know, as of today, a majority of the components on panels are recycled, but just like everything else, I mean, there's obviously like, you know, a waste crisis for everything you
Yes.
throw away, whether it's plastic bottles or garbage or whatever. You know, I'd say that I've seen that part of the industry mature tremendously over the last 10 years because solar is basically in its first kind of cycle here, like real commercial projects getting built. The Connecticut solar industry itself is probably about 15 years old from like, you know, policy wise and being able to support projects. So, you know, it's both a new industry and not really a new industry also. But in terms of what actually happens with your site, right? So the developer's responsibility is to do one of three things: either extend the lease, you know, mutually agreed to that the town, if there's a commercial argument to keep going, do an additional 5-year term. Town could buy the equipment at fair market value. At the time, I don't see that being very likely. But the third, which I find the most likely, is that the developer takes all the equipment back at their cost, restores the site pre-solar, so basically you're back again with a capped landfill, minus, you know, the fence and the equipment and all that stuff. And that's all at their cost.
additional questions? Adam, thank you. It is good news.
Yeah.
And we're absolutely working on the lease agreement.
Yeah,
so
sounds good.
Appreciate your
Keep me in
patience.
the loop if I can be of help in that process at all.
Sounds good.
Yeah, nice to see everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is our DEI committee providing us a committee report and some additional information.
So he has you ready to, he's got you ready to go.
Can I click through?
Yes, you can just grab a chair. Little details, Nick. Don't worry about it. We're working on it. Working on it. Thank you for joining us, co-chairs.
Thank you.
Tahara and Ellen.
There it is. So nice.
was just to hold your attention for the whole time, but I'm already ready for the next slide. Should I stand up there? Would that be easier?
With a mic.
I can do it. Can I
Please,
be up there
please,
without a mic?
sure.
That's fine, okay.
Nick, let us
no.
let us know if she can be heard, if she's up there.
Well, so that will be hopefully solved. All problems will hopefully be solved.
I know, we're trying to get really fancy. Okay. You'll let me know if you can hear me. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Tahara Parvez. I am here with Ellen Scalatar presenting tonight. We are the co-chairs of the Town's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and we are joined by many of our committee members tonight. Islan Vilsains, Kushway, Laura Ferrante Fernandez. You guys, just as a quiz, Jennifer Clark Lothers, Stephen Lawrence, and there were a few others that couldn't join us. You can see we're a very dedicated committee to show up here in full force tonight. We were founded in 2020 by our then first select woman, Beth Heller, who's also here supporting us tonight. Thank you, Beth. And the mission of our committee is to create a community that is even more welcoming and inclusive, and a committee where everyone is equitably represented. We just wanted to start by just going over a few numbers, an overview of Woodbridge. These numbers we pulled from Data Haven. This is their 2023 Woodbridge Community Profile. And I'll just read through this quickly just to get a lay of the land. Based on 2020 Census Bureau data, the nearly 9,100 residents of Woodbridge are 27% people of color. This compares to 37% statewide. And this 27% is triple the 9% that was reported back in 2010. Among people of color in Woodbridge, about half are East Asian or South Asian. Close to a quarter are Hispanic or Latino. Just over 1/10 are Black, and the remainder identify as other ethnicities. Along with these numbers, back in 2022, our committee, with the great help of Stephen Lawrence, I say help, but he actually did it. We conducted
That's help.
we're also honest. Conducted the Experiencing Woodbridge survey. This was an anonymous survey designed to help the committee identify areas where we can better engage with Woodbridge residents and serve all of our residents. So that was distributed, the survey invitation was distributed to all households in Woodbridge. And following that survey, we then held a community conversation in the spring of 2023. And some takeaways from that: almost 1/3 of responding households were home to at least one person of color. Close to 1/4 of responding households have at least one member who is an immigrant to the United States. 1/3 of responding households have at least one member who is a person with disabilities. And 2/3 of responding households were interested in deepening connections in our community. And that last number, the 2/3 of responding households, that was also echoed at the community conversation that we held. Many of our residents spoke about how important community and community building was to them in terms of the diversity work. So those are just kind of the numbers to get us started, and like to share some of what we've been working on in 2024. So we kicked off the year in January with a celebration. This was a partnership with the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, Greater New Haven African American Historical Society, the First Church of Woodbridge, and others, and we gathered to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at B'nai Jacob. This was supported by a grant through the Jewish Federation
There was over 200 attendees, and we were treated to a 50-member gospel choir from under the direction of Angela Clements, and followed up with a community dinner. In February, we held a community conversation on disability awareness, recognizing that there is a large percentage of Woodbridge residents that have members in their household that have disabilities. So this conversation was between our committee member, Stephen Lawrence, and local librarian, Tim Kellogg. And Tim Kellogg, he spoke about his experience about living with cerebral palsy. And it was a very moving conversation. I think it was important to the members of our community as well as to Tim, and it was important to us to make this conversation accessible. So not only did we have community members attend in person, it was also streamed and then recorded, and it's garnered over 150 views since. So it was a really important conversation, and Tim shared with us, and I just want to share this, in a letter he wrote to us afterward: the experience and reception I received from your community was incredibly impactful for me. I want to take a moment to express that gratitude and wish you all the best in the good work you are doing to help people be seen and heard for who they are as human beings. I hope the work we did together serves your community and beyond. And thinking about like ripple effects of the work we do, Tim felt empowered enough to bring this conversation to Madison and hold another community conversation on disability there. It was a really great experience, and thank you, Stephen, for leading that conversation so beautifully. In the spring, we launched the Human Library. You might recognize some of those folks. The Human Library is a global movement that began in Copenhagen in 2020, where you can check out humans instead of books and spend the day talking with them. And these books share a diverse range of experiences. It could be adopted, disabled, refugee, widow, and the mission is to connect people who normally wouldn't sit down and have a conversation to learn more about each other and build knowledge and tolerance. So our committee is helping to build a human library here in Woodbridge. We're in the process of collecting books, and we invite everyone who's interested to become a book. And our goal is, once we have enough books in our library, to host an event where we can bring people together and have those one-on-one conversations. Woodbridge Like Me Day. Woodbridge Like Me Day is probably the thing we are most known for. And I will say, just as a side anecdote, when I started this, someone said, Woodbridge Like Me Day is going to be the thing that you guys are known for. And I was kind of like, oh man, I want to do really important work. I don't want to be like the party planning committee. But as we've moved through the years, Woodbridge Like Me Day has really become something that's really important to the community. And I feel like diversity starts there. It starts with bringing people together, knowing your neighbors, and sharing what makes you you. So we'll talk about this year's Woodbridge Like Me Day a little later, but that is part of the work we do. I'm going to turn it over to Ellen now. Do you want to come? You want to hear? Okay, I'll click through for you.
Thank you for having us this evening. As you can see, we've been doing a lot of work on the DEI committee. And this year, a group of Chinese American students came to the DEI committee and reported to us that communities around Connecticut were recognizing Lunar New Year. And they were very interested in having the town issue a proclamation to recognize Lunar New Year. We took it as an opportunity to have them do a little more research. We asked them to tell us which towns to bring us sample language, and then we did some research on our own. And we have now developed language that we are recommending to the board. We've sent it over, I think Allison has it, and so we would recommend that the board issue a proclamation recognizing January 29th, 2025 as Lunar New Year Day in Woodbridge. So we hope you will consider that and perhaps take it up at your next meeting. Looking ahead this year, we have been talking to the Witness Stones Project. This is a group that started in Guilford, Connecticut, and it has spread throughout the state and to other states. It's based on a project that was done in Germany to commemorate victims of the Holocaust by placing stones with the names of individuals so that people who are victims of injustice become real people and their stories are told. So the Witness Stones Project is as they describe themselves, a nonprofit community initiative whose mission is to restore the history and honor the humanity of the enslaved individuals who helped build our communities. And one of the things they talk about is in the North, people sometimes think, well, slavery was not an issue here and it's not something for us to talk about. And they do the research about individuals and individual families and make them come alive in the community. The staff of the project will help to organize and lead a series of community discussions concerning the history of slavery and focusing on the life of an individual enslaved person or persons with connections to Woodbridge or the greater Woodbridge area. I think they have some of that research already. And the culmination of the project is a placing of a stone recognizing and commemorating that enslaved person. In order to make this project a reality, we think it's a really important community building and community engagement project, and we will be going to different organizations in town and businesses to hope that they will participate with us, help us with the funding. We do need to sign the town would have to sign a contract for this, and we think it will be a very meaningful community project with different discussions along the way. And again, we look to your help and leadership for that. And this is an example of the stones at the culmination of the project. Yes, the board and the people working on the project would come up with a location, a meaningful location for the stone for the town.
Okay, and we'd like to conclude by just giving you a little bit about this year's Woodbridge Like Me Day. This is our 4th annual celebration. We had hundreds of people in attendance. It was a very feel-good day. It was gorgeous weather, and it was just a really proud day, I think, for all of us on the committee, just to have everyone together enjoying this gorgeous celebration of diversity. I would be remiss if I didn't thank a few people specifically, and that would be John DeMeo, who helped out tremendously in the planning of this. We worked very closely. I think he needs a break from me now, for at least for a little bit. Carlos Torres and Mark Dutka and others that helped set up. They were so accommodating, such lovely people, and really just so helpful all around. So many town employees. Allison's printing maps. I mean, it was really speaks to how amazing this town is, especially when people feel like you're doing good work. Everyone comes out and wants to help kind of facilitate and make that happen. So it was such a great experience. We had what did I do?
You broke it.
Help!
Was that just half of the thing that you sent me? Was there
No.
another- Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay.
I think it went to sleep.
Okay.
But it's just the Google Drive link, and then second last side is the video.
Oops. Alright. Hold on.
Incidentally, I think it bears mentioning that today we met with technology companies specifically to talk about
Good timing.
upgrading our technology in this room. So there is some dollars available for us to do that, and we're looking into it. So the plan is in the
So
works.
ironic too that this is the most difficult of procedures ever.
And while we're waiting, David Franklin, another member of our committee, joined us.
David, good to see you. And thank you, the committee. I think Tahira put it quite nicely in terms of your commitment and dedication to what you're doing is expressed in your presence here tonight, and certainly I appreciate it. So
No, it's not enough.
it does say something. Thank you, folks.
Here, Andrea, do you want?
Mine is up.
Yeah, I was going to just give him my laptop.
Yeah, go ahead. Can you plug in, you wanna plug in a different laptop, Nick?
Yeah.
Here, Nick. Of course, mine was having a little trouble loading too, so. Why don't you turn on the projector?
Projecting. The double secret
I know, right?
plans.
Ding, 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 messages and stuff come up, yeah, no, you don't.
What's this nuclear war?
Do we need me to sign on or?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I hate so. I'm so happy for you. And you get this,
Yeah. We should institute some movement issues.
Go to the PowerPoint, see if it's open.
No, it's a Google slide.
Oh,
There we go, we're good. Yay!
Good use. For sure.
Okay, so, there, there were many organizations, town, commissions and departments. We had, face painting and henna art and, clubs from Amity, Beecher Road School. It was a great representation, of all of Woodbridge. In addition to this, we hosted, we put together the first ever Woodbridge Runway Show, and invited residents to come and show whatever aspect of themselves they would care to share. So we had folks come dressed in traditional garments from their heritage. We had Bethwood Baseball and the Garden Club. We had some living treasures, the Girl Scouts, Amity Creative Theater. It was super cool. And I would like to conclude this by showing you a short-ish video. I have to shout out Mrs. Charleglio at Beecher Road School. She came once she heard that we were doing this. She came with her students from Beecher Road, and they put together this video about Woodbridge. And if this works, I'm going to share it with you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Mickey Cardozo. I'm first selectman here in Woodbridge, and I'm so happy to be a part of a town that can put on an event like today, which is Woodbridge Rugby Day.
It is my greatest joy to see all these Woodbridge residents together here on a beautiful day, out in the green, enjoying life, enjoying the company of each other, and just sharing in the Woodbridge experience.
special place because we have this beautiful town center and we can get together for events like Woodbridge Like Me Day, like today. One thing I love about Woodbridge is the 5Ks that we have in town because they're really fun to run.
What I love about Woodbridge is how much we value our kids and how we want to help them grow up to be in a happy and caring community with great education system.
One of the things I love about Woodbridge is that we live in a town with such an amazing theater department and that we can all have access to it. It's one of the best in the country and I'm so grateful that we're able to participate.
I think Woodbridge is special because it's like kind of a smaller town, so everyone is like in one big community and they all know each other and they're all really good friends.
Hi, I love Woodbridge for the open space and mostly for the great people who live in town.
I love going to Beach Road School since all my friends are there, and I love being in this community.
how easy it is to belong. I can be all aspects of myself and feel integral to the town. And I really, really love that for myself and my family, my kids.
So I love the ability of just having the ability to just share our cultures with everybody around, and the ability to absorb all the different cultures and how accepting everybody is and how we grow as a family in a community.
When my husband and I moved to Woodbridge 12 years ago, the joke we made is that we were bringing the diversity with us. We were a biracial family with a black child, and we thought, no one else in Woodbridge is going to look like us. What we found was quite the opposite. It was an increasingly diverse community, and people were welcomed with open arms. And truly, I think from community members to the schools, our family has grown and been supported over the years, and we've reached out to many diverse families beyond Woodbridge, encouraging them to move here. So we take credit for having brought a few folks to the community. It's a great and special place. We're very lucky and blessed to live here.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Please, thank you.
Yes.
Shirley Leader.
And if I could
That was beautiful.
just before I sit down, just gush about this committee for just a second. All the members here, it's been such a pleasure working with them and getting to know them. And we come from a wide variety of backgrounds and experiences, but we're all committed to making Woodbridge just an even more wonderful place to live. So thank you to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Lunar New Year was mentioned in the presentation. That is something that we will take up next month since it's in January. We want to make sure we care for that before the time comes. So again, thank you very much for everything you've been doing and continue to do.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is indeed the CCW Master Plan update. So with that, we will ask Mike Cassis to please join us. Mike, thank you for attending and for patiently waiting. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Getting to know us.
Well, it's a good segue to inspire the work.
Exactly. It is actually very much so.
Yeah.
Organized here now. So we have in our packets the information that Mike had, that Mike and Cooper Robertson had provided us based on our previous discussions, and it included the charge and some additional information. The new proposal in terms of the added meetings we had discussed and project purpose, the scope, and so I don't know. I'll start by asking if there's any questions as relates to the documentation. There's also a timeline in here that we want, anything that we might want to bring to Mike's attention or have questions on. I think the next step in the process, what we had discussed is naming, if you will, the committee. As you know, in the past, and as I've discussed with you in the past, my sense is we've expanded the original intent to 8 of our commissions and committees, and my recommendation had been that we have the chair, the co-chair, or the vice chair of those committees as the representatives to those committees. We talked at length in regards to what the charge of those committees would be, made sure that we changed the name of the committee to reflect what we felt was going to be required by the committees, and calling them the technical assistance team to provide the technical aspects of their particular committee, technical information and assistance to the consultant based on their particular commissions and committees. And to that end, I had previously, and I did again, just reach out to those that I mentioned, the chairs, the co-chairs, and the vice chairs. In 2 instances, first, I guess, I think we all know who the committees are, but I'll just make sure that we state them again. It's conservation, agriculture, recreation, sustainability, economic development, housing, agriculture, and human services. Did I miss any? CUPOP, excuse me, CUPOP, thank you. We didn't name individuals at that point in time. That's something that wanted to discuss here. Again, I'm where I've always been in terms of asking the commissions, as my sense, and just to put it in perspective is the way I see it, if we were to ask any of these committees or commissions to come before the board and provide information, we would ask the chairs to come before the board and provide that information. I feel we should do the same with this particular consultant. I've reached out to all of these commission chairs. In the case of recreation and human services, the chair of the commission felt that they might not be able to make the commitment that was required and that they'd like to make themselves, so they didn't want to get involved if they didn't feel they can be fully engaged. So in those cases, they respectfully asked that I move to the next person in line, which would be the vice chair. In the case of Human Services, that would be, I'm sorry, yes, in the case of Human Services, that would be Pat Madden. And in the case of Recreation, that would be Julie Katz, who both indicated that they would be very interested in participating. So with that, I understand that there was some consideration for some other members of the commissions to have a say in this. What we've done in our discussions with the consultant is we've added additional capabilities or additional opportunities, I should say, to have the committees as a whole. So if there are members of the committee, for example, who feel like they want to personally input on any of this, they will have that opportunity. It's not to exclude anybody. This is just to have the representatives from the committees participating with the consultant as part of their committee. And the big question that all of these individuals had asked Mike was whether it's going to be during the day or at night. So that's something and I told them it'll probably depend on what the group, what fits best for the group.
We
So-
would poll, we
so-
would poll the group and see
Right.
what was most flexible.
So with that, I'll open it up for any additional discussion, because I understand that not everyone agrees with my position. But I did want to explain what my position was and why in this instance. So, thoughts? Okay.
Well, no, there are certainly thoughts.
Okay.
I guess I'll start it off because I was under the impression after our pretty exhaustive meeting a few weeks ago that we would have the opportunity to explore other representation outside of chairs or co-chairs or vice chairs of those 8 boards and commissions. We discussed the value and benefit of considering resumes and experience and qualifications. We discussed diversity in terms of age, race, political affiliation. And it was my understanding that between then and now, we were all able to consult with folks on boards and commissions, gauge interests, find candidates with great representation of those different aspects of diversity I just mentioned, that are willing and qualified and well suited for this work. So I did that work. And I am disappointed if we're not able to explore those options, especially for the benefit of those people who expressed interest and are certainly well qualified. I do have concerns about just defaulting to chairs and folks in leadership roles for many reasons, one of which is their commitments in those leadership roles and capacity. Of course, it's up to every individual to assess their own capacity, but some of these chairs are involved in some pretty big endeavors in town that overlap with this timeline. And that is something I think to consider and discuss. I don't have a list in our packet of all the specific chairs, unless I'm missing something, of the specific chairs, vice chairs, their kind of affiliation to get a comprehensive understanding of what you're proposing versus what I submitted, or Dave and I submitted via email. So I'll leave it at that to see if others have anything to say.
What I'll say is that you just described what you put into.
If you go into your packet from last month, it's in the packet.
So
from
it's
the 23rd,
the original, but that was only 5. So have,
Yes, you're correct, so we didn't have the other ones.
okay.
The,
I want to
what you-
discuss expertise and
I'm happy to.
qualifications.
All of exactly what you said, from my view, all of the chairs already provide. They provide diversity, both in terms of their age and what you mentioned, their qualifications. They provide leadership. They've been doing what they've been doing for a while, and they were elected by their boards to do what they're doing. They all have qualifications that are consistent with what their responsibilities are. For just what you said is the reason I feel there's no reason not to go with the chairs. In other words, they present exactly what you're describing you want to be in there. And I understand that there might be some slight variations on this, but they represent different political parties.
So what's the count? What's the number of Rs, Ds, Us, and Is?
I think it was four, there's, not including the ad hoc, there was, I believe, 2 Rs and 3 Ds. You know, and I'm sorry I didn't bring my list, my personal list with me that had all that information on it, but here, let me give you the names. So we know, and this is just the names as far as the chairs are concerned. So in conservation, there's actually co-chairs. That's Diana, Berkery, and Sharon DeCat.
So both are being put on?
Have been asked, and they would share, they indicated they're both interested. Diana was the one who, from a qualification standpoint, Diana and Sharon, I did speak with Sharon as well, and Diana, from a qualification standpoint, had the credentials, if you will. But however, Sharon is interested in presenting, and one of the things I wanted to ask Mike is, if they're in the instance, there's 2 instances where there's co-chairs. There's this one, conservation, and there's also sustainability. So in both cases, they both would like to participate. My response to them was, let me check with you whether both or either. In other words, if one can't make it, the other one can, and they can obviously care for it themselves since that's what they're doing on their commissions, if that would work.
I mean, that may even be advantageous so that we make sure that they're represented if
Mhm.
one person can't make it. There's, as you mentioned earlier, there's the thematic groups, focus groups
Yes.
that we've introduced to the process now. So if one person ends up attending all of the meetings for the TAC, that other person still gets an opportunity to engage with us directly through that focus group setting.
It doesn't make sense to me how because someone has interest, they would be able to filter in and out like that when other people that we've talked about have
Because
interest,
they're-
but they
they're-
wouldn't be able
because
to.
they're- Because they're co-chairs.
So
there's
we're
2
having
chairs.
people
They have the title. There's a reason, it's because they have the
So,
title.
but it's a membership of an X amount of people, 9 people. So that's really making it 11 people.
There will be 9 people attending the meetings.
That feels weird to me.
And from my perspective, I have no qualms about calling them and saying it's gotta be one or the other. I'm looking to move forward on this. I'm looking to make it as diverse and as complete as possible. So from that perspective, I think that's not a showstopper from my perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to point out that it happens to be diverse, but it's not. I mean, if you just choose chairs, you're just choosing chairs.
Correct.
The fact that it happens to have those other qualities is not a function of who you're choosing. It's a function of it just happened that way. And I think the only problem that I really have with the idea of choosing chairs is that you might choose a person to be chair because they lead a good meeting or they take good notes. I don't know that necessarily qualifies them either particularly on the expertise or necessarily to represent the group. However, we do assume that. So just, the assumptions that we're making aren't always consistent because we're both assuming that they are the right person, which may be the case. But
I don't think under any circumstances that regardless of who we choose, that case can be made regardless. And, the way I look at it from my perspective is I'm designated as the leader of this particular group. I feel that's for a particular reason. Obviously, in this case, it's very easy to tell. It's because people voted for me. But from that perspective, if there was an opportunity for this group to be represented, and it wasn't me, I would want to know why, because from that perspective, I've been chosen to do this. It's in this group. These people are volunteers. They've been selected by their group to lead those groups.
I don't know that that's the case in every setting, in every board and commission.
They do take a vote. They do take a vote.
Just because someone is in a leadership role doesn't make them a leader. And
we're asking them to
this is-
report. We have to remember that we're asking them to report. We're not asking them to develop, or we're not asking them to analyze. We're not asking them to input in terms of their opinions or anything like that. We're asking them to report and assist the consultant. So from that perspective, they're designated as a representative for their group. And who better to represent a group than the group's leader? That's the reason that I feel the way I do.
I find it interesting that in our follow-up discussion from our October special meeting, which was so focused around how the Board of Selectmen will remain the center, that throughout this process, somehow, at least as a board, I'll speak for myself as a Board of Selectmen member, I'm not feeling that. It seems pretty unilateral in its approach, and I guess that's your prerogative as first selectman, but it's ignoring the expertise that we sought to find in these other names shared to ensure greater representation of perspective and areas of expertise pertaining to those boards and commissions.
And I appreciate your point, but we're not excluding that. We're making sure that, as a matter of fact, the way we're approaching this, we're making sure we include that to give them an opportunity, should they be on the board and that they not agree with the leader, and the leader feel that the information that they want to disseminate to Mike is not something somebody wants to do, they will have their opportunity in order to say what they want to say. We spent a considerable amount of time specifically identifying what the role of this committee was going to be. And the time we spent on that was very specifically spent in making sure we limited and we specified what these folks would do. And we limited it and we specified it to the point that they would report technical information from their committees to this group. They would report. Now, from my perspective, anytime we've ever asked a committee to come in and report to us, it's always been the chair who we've asked. And I don't see that we should be now saying, well, no, let's take another look at that. Let's decide maybe A or B here because of these reasons and B or C here because of those reasons. My sense is that this becomes less subjective and more objective. And as it turns out, these people have the credentials to back up the fact that they are the leaders of their organizations. And they're willing to do it. They're willing to take the time and to make the effort to do it. And from a representation standpoint, and again, I don't feel the country club is a political issue at all. I do feel there's people on both parties who feel both ways. So I don't think that there's a necessity that it's necessarily an A or a B.
When you say both ways, what do you mean?
Well, whether they're agreeable to having housing on the country club, or whether they want to leave the country club and not have anything on it at all.
So let's talk about that.
That's-
Housing is something you've brought up many a times about it with pertaining to this specific location.
Yes.
And I think what you're saying is open space maybe is the other end of that. So who is the open space expert you're putting forth on this TAC?
Well, this TAC isn't for that. This TAC is for the boards and commissions
Yeah, so
to
who is-
report their technical information to the consultant. This isn't the place for, there is a place, and because I think
how is
everyone
this-
deserves a voice, but this committee isn't the place for those voices. Those voices already outlined in the plan. There is another place for them to have that voice. This technical advisory committee is purely to report information from these boards and commissions to Cooper Robertson.
But to respond to your question,
I'm
if I
hearing
might,
different
to
things.
respond to your question specifically, I don't see it as an individual. The answer to your question is who on here represents open space? Conservation, sustainability, and agriculture. That's who represents it. Those commissions represent it.
I mean,
Not, and the individuals are just gonna bring the information related to those particular commissions.
Space.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Well, no, Steve added Coupop, but that's not its necessarily its area of focus. It's
But certainly
included, but
sustainability,
kind of,
conservation.
not really. Sustainability, I mean, it's related,
Yes,
but it's not the same.
conservation.
And conservation is the closest to it. I mean, agriculture, sure, focusing on a specific type. But I've heard you say, Mika, experts. This person is an expert in this field.
I don't know that I've used the word expert, certainly subject matter
You
expert.
have to me. So that's why I brought it up in as a question here, to have inclusion and
There-
expertise.
There certainly are people with credentials on this that are represented as the chairs who could be considered expert in their field. Absolutely can be, based on what I see on their resumes and based on what I know of their experience. So absolutely there could be. That's who's an expert and who's not. That's an expert to me might not be an expert to you. But certainly from my perspective, I can make a case that there's people on that are chairs of our commissions who are experts in their particular areas.
So let's go back. 2 R's, 3 D's, that's 5. So the
3 R's, 3 D's, 2 U's.
Thank you.
Can you read us the names? 'Cause
Yes,
that's-
Diane McCarthy Burkery's Democrat from Conservation. Nicole
please do
Don
so we can hear
Diane
it, Steve.
McCarthy Burkery from Conservation, and Sharon DeCat, both are Democrats from Conservation. Coupop is Nicole Donzello's Democrat. EDC, Scott Perdome, Republican. Recreation, we talked about Julie Katz as a vice chair, filling in, is unaffiliated. Housing, Kathy Hunter, Democrat. Agriculture, Chris Sorensen, Republican.
Oh, it would be,
Or that get
Chris,
moved to?
that's Christina. Chris has declined. That was the other one.
Okay, so I had Chris on there, so. Christina Holland.
Yes, vice chair.
Which is
Democrat, or actually, I don't have that in front of me, sorry. Hillary Drum from Sustainability, unaffiliated. Pat Madden from Human Services.
Unaffiliated.
I have him on our list as Republican on our list of
Christina Holland is a Democrat.
Democrat. So that changes one over. I had it as 3, 3, and 2, but that makes it 4, 2, and 2.
And then we were gonna do an ad hoc, but are we not doing that at all?
I'll leave that open.
At large?
At large?
At large,
Yeah.
yeah. Ad hoc.
We made the recommendation that I had made and discussed. The only name we had discussed so far was a finance person who we now know can't participate, so we would have to relook at that.
well, we submitted 3 names,
Yeah, we
all of whom are willing and wanting to serve.
Are those people that are living in that area surrounding the country club?
One is.
My thought would be the.
One is.
one is.
Neighborhood.
One is.
Yeah.
And a lot of expertise actually in the area, land use
And do you
What
know
I would
the-
actually
do
would be
you
a
know
pretty
the
good, really
political-
pretty good person for this group.
Do you know the political affiliation of that person?
Don't know.
I could look. Is
I
it
think,
Al?
I don't know.
Is it
Al is the one who
Yeah,
you're
Al, I don't
referring
know.
to.
I could look this
I
up.
might be able to look it up.
We,
Not someone from the commission.
it was yesterday that we received your list on Monday evening. Certainly I haven't had an opportunity since speaking with Nick about Javier to consider
Since
it.
we've received your
So-
list. I mean,
No, you've known the chairs, the chairs have been the chairs of committees for almost a year now.
it-
So, no, that's not true.
Before today, it was my understanding that we were having a broader conversation about.
We can have the conversation, and again, what I'm
So
suggesting
what's
is
the point
I
of having a
haven't,
conversation if there's no open-mindedness to inclusion?
no, that's just wrong. That's,
I-
there's
how?
very much.
Help me to understand how that, you're
You-
saying
you
we can
haven't
have the
demonstrated-
conversation.
You haven't you're suggesting different names,
Yeah,
but you're not suggesting different reasons. These are the chairs. We
be-
spent all our time, we spent so much of our time discussing the particulars as to what this group is going to do. So from my perspective, it strengthens the reason that we would go with the chairs, because it takes out the opinion, it takes out the authorizations, it takes out, so from that perspective, it made it, these people are here to report. So it strengthens the position of using the chairs.
I just want to say, I think we've spent too much time on this. This is not a group that has any decision-making power. Everyone in this group and everyone on every commission and every person in this town has the opportunity to participate in this process. And this is not a group that's making a decision. They're a resource for our consultant. We're now committing more dollars to this process as a result of the discussions. We've had to have more meetings, not only with the TAC, but with all of the commissions. So I understand wanting to get it right. I understand, but we've spent a lot of time on this, and I don't think this group moves it one way or the other. I think the chairs is the right way to go, and I'd like to move this forward with this proposal. So I don't know, Mika, if you were hoping to vote on it, but I would make a motion to accept the group as you've described, with the chairs or vice chairs of the committees. I can read the names again if you'd like.
well, who would be the at-large?
The caveat I would put is that we would have to select an at-large individual at our next meeting.
We have 3 on the table, so are you feeling like you don't have enough information? Bios were sent?
That hasn't been passed out to everyone, Andrea. That was, as I said, that was received, when we received it, that hasn't been disseminated to the rest of the,
Okay.
so I'm not suggesting that we're not going to say that. All I'm suggesting is that we give it some time for people to give some consideration and maybe other alternatives.
Mika, I think the argument is stronger if you just said the chairs. Honestly, I think it's a little bit misrepresenting. Maybe that's a strong word, so I won't use that word. But to say that there's diversity and expertise, we don't really know that, because we don't have the expertise. We don't have the resumes of these people in front of us, so we don't know exactly what their expertise is. But you are absolutely correct. As the chair, as an elected chair of a commission, we should be getting that commission's input through them. And that makes a strong argument. I think the diversity was happenstance, and the expertise is, it's nice, but not necessarily. You got to choose some way. If you start looking at experts, you're going to be all over the map.
Correct.
And you're not even necessarily going to be in those commissions. So I think your strongest point, and what is somewhat confusing, is that we didn't start out wanting experts or diversity. We may have liked to have diversity, but we were looking for the chairs of the commissions.
Well, the diversity is important, only particularly from a political
Well, if
party
If we
affiliation.
didn't happen to have it, it would be the fault of the commissions.
But no, I'm saying particularly as relates to the political affiliation because of minority representation. That's important. So,
No doubt. It is me, but it's not always been.
it is to me as well.
But then we can go back to what we were talking about 3 weeks ago, which I'm not suggesting, but the history of the appointments of these boards and commissions. But it's clear there's really no point in discussing. So let's move on with the vote.
So there's a
So,
motion on the table.
Yeah, so can I ask a question?
Motion's been seconded. Yes,
Wait,
there's
to ask the question.
time for discussion.
So, just to back up, We have more information in our packet, and we've got very specific descriptions of the roles of the various groups. And so just so the audience who does not know what we're looking at, the Technical Assistance Committee, which is what we're talking about,
Yes.
is also augmented by, first off, the Board of Selectmen as the main decision maker, a core team of staff that will be working on a regular basis, this Technical Assistance Committee, and then the focus area groups, which is augmentation from the last time we had talked. So there's an environmental and recreation focus area, focus group, I guess it would be called, and then land use and development, and then public services and community. And underneath all of those three focus group areas, it seems to me that there's an opportunity for everyone on the Conservation Commission, everyone on the Agricultural Commission, everyone on
Yes, they said that.
the various things.
Yes.
So I guess my only question now is, we kind of heard that this is essentially an ad hoc committee. Is that what we've decided, right?
Mhm.
And so I think in the past, ad hoc committees, it's been at the pleasure of the first selectman to appoint them. We're taking time to discuss and, kind of coming back to, this is the job of the first selectman to appoint ad hoc committees. So I would be comfortable taking that approach. I don't know if others are. Just throwing it out there. Like all ad hocs, it's just appointed by the first selectman. And then, as you say, he says chairs and co-chairs, and that's what it is.
Then let's do it.
Well, so the motion on the table is essentially to do that proposal, but I'm happy to remove that motion and put it in the first selectman's hand to do our normal process of.
The first selectman feels the way that I've expressed. I feel that we should go with the chair first or co-chair. If they're not able to, then we go with the vice chair. And that's what this list of names represents.
So Steve, if you withdrew your
leadership.
motion,
And also,
we
if
would
you
be
would,
defaulting to Mika's
Yeah.
appointment.
and if you would read the names again, Steve, I'd appreciate it as well, so that we're clear.
Well, sure, but I guess the sort of point was that we don't necessarily have to go through with a vote on this if we.
I'd feel better if we
If
had
we
a
did.
vote.
Okay, great.
I would
So,
prefer we had a vote.
I know you like to vote because you like to involve us.
Yeah.
I think we've had plenty of involvement, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I kind of support what Sheila said, but I'm happy to take a vote as well. I just think that in the fact that it's always been the chair's prerogative to appoint ad hoc committees, I find it refreshing that you're willing to hear a dissenting voice or a different viewpoint or any viewpoint on it, because it's not necessarily been the case in the past. So I think it's time well spent to talk about these issues, but I'm personally willing to default to our previous practice.
I wish that was expressed 3 weeks ago. Before I spent all this time in engaging other people.
My apologies.
No, I mean,
Mine as well, Andrea.
yeah, thank
Mine
you.
as well.
So the motion on the table is to move forward with the TAC committee, including the chairs or vice chairs of the 8 commissions. I'll read the commissions and their names of who we expect.
Just as part of the discussion on this, if I'm not mistaken, what I'm hearing said is that we do not need to take a vote. And based on the indication that I'd like the chairs, and as the first selectman selecting this ad hoc group, we go with the chairs, and we're saying it's not necessary to vote, to make sure that I'm clear.
If we withdraw the motion.
If we withdraw the motion.
Hold on.
If
We
we
have
would,
a motion and a second
But-
already on the table.
but we're
We need to
discussing it.
withdraw
We're
the
discussing it. We need to withdraw the motion. It would be withdrawing the motion, moving forward, being acknowledged that we will be moving forward with the chairs as being, the chairs or the vice chairs, as is the case here, being appointed as the TAC committee.
And the community member how would we,
It would be at your
Submit
discretion.
names,
In
yeah.
that case, it would be in your discretion. You've received names from people. I know that you've talked to other people as well, but it would be at your discretion as well. So to add an at-large.
And then you could come back at our next meeting and name
And-
that person officially, because you don't
Or
do
you
it
let us know
outside
who
the
it-
meeting.
who it
I
is.
prefer, yes, I'm not prepared to do that today, so I will do that at the next meeting.
The next meeting.
David, are you okay with us not moving ahead with the vote? I'm not attached either, so.
Andrea?
It doesn't matter. I
Maria?
would prefer to vote, but it's, obviously, that's not the required process, so I don't care.
I like the idea of deferring to the process we've always had for ad hocs. This is a very special ad hoc, of course, and we appreciate everybody's willingness to serve. And I want us to not undermine this process. I think that we've made progress. I think these documents that we have here are pointing us in a direction that is going to be very open. I like the transparency piece of this because I can see very clearly that the input of this committee and those focus groups all going to be public, all going to be available. The public can all look in and see what's happening. And I think that that's really the approach we have to take. If we want this project to succeed in the end, we do it this way. So I would prefer that we don't have to take any kind of vote that might be divisive, if we can just defer to our ad hoc appointment.
So with that, I will withdraw the motion, and I'll say, Sheila, I always appreciate your keeper of history and process. Much appreciated. And I think it is wise to stick with a process that we've kept in the past, and this is an appropriate instance in that case, and I appreciate everyone's input into this. And motion withdrawn.
Thank you. And as indicated, we'll select an ad hoc individual at the next meeting, and I'll reach out in regards to that.
You'll let us
You
know.
will.
You will let us know.
Yes.
You will select
You will
one.
select, and you'll let us
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
no,
With input,
and when you come back to a meeting and announce it, that's when the person is official, right?
officially
Yeah.
on there,
Mhm.
correct.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
And I'll just add, it seems like this group doesn't need to wait for that. I mean, part of my interest is that this group moves ahead, and so that there's work to be
Gotta
done.
get going.
I agree.
Mike, what happens if there's not consensus? It's listed as one of your project goals.
No consensus for the project.
And how do you define consensus?
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's where you start, is how you define consensus. Consensus within this board, consensus within the groups involved on the committees and commissions, within the community at large. There's lots of degrees of that we could consider here. And I think I'd turn to the board as the decision-making body and the leaders of this project to help define that early on in this process. What does the optimal outcome look like from now, and how would you define that?
So just to talk a little bit more about your process,
Yeah.
You're talking about interviews, and there's a nice timeline, but doesn't have specific days on it. When can we expect, now that we're
Yeah.
moving forward here, when can we expect to hear what the dates are gonna be?
Yeah, they're week by week. The board meetings are identified on the timeline or your regularly scheduled meetings, so we'd like to adhere to that if all possible. And so we've tried to weave our schedule for our analysis and our technical work within that. Of course, we have to be flexible if some things do take longer. As so described in the engagement plan, we'll be asking for feedback within a certain period of time after major milestone reviews, but we completely understand that may need to be extended in some cases for further deliberation. So we'll be flexible, but this is what we've laid out that fits the budget, the resources that we have today, and so we will begin to schedule, I think, now until the end of the year, as soon as we can. We'll try to find a date to come up and walk the property, and to sit down with Goldman in New York, go through the technical support that they'll be providing us, and really hit the ground running so that in about a month's time, before the holidays certainly, that we have an initial understanding of the opportunities and challenges that we're trying to address here, building on all the past work that's done, but sort of refreshing it for today's market, today's opinions and thoughts about the property.
So having referenced to the viewing public that this will be available, in your packet you talk about making materials available, and or is it like a website link that the public can look for?
I mean, that's one of the things we need to dig into right away, is what is the process for us providing materials to the town to upload to the website. We'll provide things in PDF form that can be viewed and downloaded. If there are meetings and we can accommodate it technically, we'll try to provide recordings of those meetings if you'd like to do that. Surveys links can be on there, survey results can be on there. It's all about, I think what we need to do is sit down with the core team and just talk through logistics of how that works.
That would be great. I think that's going to be an important component here, as you know, from this kind of work everywhere, right?
Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, it has to be easily accessible. On the town's website is really going to be the best place for that. Of course, we'll try to broadcast it through social media or earned media, but having one place where everything resides is really important.
We'll start working on that internally on the staff side.
That's great.
From my perspective, the process is what's important at this point in time, that we come up with a solution that really has been input by as many stakeholders as is possible, and is representative of what those stakeholders feel is important. And certainly that could be any number of solutions. And I think it's most important that we get started.
Yeah.
And we start making some progress on it.
I agree.
So I appreciate everybody's patience. Apologize for any of the miscommunication and or unnecessary work, and we'll move forward from here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is Tony finishing the administrative report.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the ARP funds. The first document I'd like to review is the summary that we've reviewed in the past. I've updated that. It's just a good snapshot of what we've spent the funds on, and I'll just review that again for the board. So we've received $2,589,568 is how much money we've received from American Rescue Plan funds. We've spent so far $275,000 on the senior center, $333,000 on the center gym, $90,919 for the LOTSIP application, and $270,000 on road paving. We've obligated $333,000 for the fire training and storage facility, and $369,700 for the design proposal for our SLR. We have plans. Actually, tonight you've made a big step forward to obligating the community center improvements for $334,000. So once we sign a contract for that, that will be obligated, and those funds will be all set. In your packet tonight in the agenda is just an update from SLR. That was additional survey work and drainage study work that you had asked for last meeting, which is $11,000 for the some survey work related to, and including some drainage study work for $43,000. That would be added to the funding, and that's later on in your package, just sort of to review that and to accept that.
That was for the LOTSIP stuff?
Correct. That's correct. So LOTSIP funding, the funding for that has already been approved. So that's why that just requires, to actually approve the work for SLR. And then finally, the pending requests, of which we have funding requests for, includes $85,876 for the Country Club master plan. There was originally a $52,000 funding for that to fund the rest of that plan, which you had reviewed at your last meeting. And added to that is $35,000 for the additional work, which was discussed this evening in terms of additional meetings. That brings our total to $85,876. There's $20,000 for planning assistance that we've discussed last time. There's $93,9960 for a treadmill and a replacement. It's actually a treadmill and another piece of equipment in the
Fitness
center. Thank you. There's a public works, and that was in the capital budget for next year, so that would be removed. The public works pickup truck, 64,435.40.
Is that a plowing truck? I saw is there a plow on that?
Yeah, yeah.
So that they're gonna come plow all our the
No, well, now you're
selectmen's
driving.
driveways on the first
No,
of winter?
unfortunately, no. We're not going to be plowing anyone's driveway, but you could put a plow on there, yes.
Good try.
My vote hangs in the balance.
There's also a large cutting width mower, but we won't be mowing anyone's lawn with that either. If you've ever seen this mower, it's probably like the size of this, almost the size of this mower. It's a huge mower. They're a baseball grooming machine for $33,357. There's that was also in the capital budget. There's a center sidewalk contract administration and center sidewalk project representative. Project is currently out to bid, and were items that would be in the capital budget for next year. We should be receiving bids back next week, I believe, and will be on your December agenda for your review. The Board of Ed playground improvements for $39,510. There is a police vehicle for $66,897.44. Some of these items that are like equipment related also would need a bid waiver to be purchased off state contract, and that includes the Public Works pickup truck, the large width cutting mower, either state contract or some regional purchasing contract, baseball grooming machine, the police vehicle. Those are all items that are off of a purchasing contract. There's an item that came up for the Board of Education. They're automatic doors. I don't know if any of you know about this issue, but there's it's to provide accessibility, easier accessibility to the entrance through an automatic process, because there are some students that have trouble getting in due to some disabilities. So
Is that north and south, or?
I believe it's just north.
Just north.
Yeah. And so they'd requested that we consider that project. And finally, the center cupola. If we've discovered that there's some leaking at the very top, and so this would be to replace the top of the cupola with a copper top, which is how it used to be, I guess. And when they got up there, they realized that at some point someone had painted the copper with gold. I'm not sure why. And
Now we're gonna have to look into that.
And it leaks like crazy. So we have to replace that, but I think it'll look real nice once that's completed. To match
everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so that brings the total for those projects to $503,316.31. So there's a remaining balance of $26,632.81, and our goal is, but we didn't have enough time between the end of early voting and this meeting, but my guess is that'll cover the early voting costs, as Steve suggested, which was a good one. And so that should take care of the remainder of the funds. So we'll have that for you at your December meeting. And so that's the summary.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yep.
You're landing the plane here. Very
Yes.
good.
And that addition,
Coordination, getting all that together.
Yeah.
and subsequent to our discussions about the country club, that additional funding that we put into that $85,000 was really to ensure more individual contact with the consultants on this, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So to your earlier points, there are plenty of opportunities that you're providing for the public to have access.
Correct.
That's what we're spending the money on.
I think
It's
it
a
would be
good
money.
use of the money.
It would be money well spent,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Next.
So the next item is actually each one of those items on that list, on the ARP update. So So it's a little extensive, but to transfer the funds to the each specific project from the previous allocation, which was for work business district, work down in the business district as a result of the that we discussed from the plan for the LOTSIP funds. So the first item is 2425-06 to transfer 85,876 for the Country Club Woodridge Master Plan contract with Cooper Robertson.
I'll make the motion to approve line item transfer 2425-06 for $85,876 for the use of ARP funds for the Country Club of Woodbridge Master Plan contract with Cooper Robertson.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Tony, I could just read through these if you want as motions.
What's that?
Do you want me to just read through
We'll
the
keep
motions?
going.
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
that's what
Yeah, go ahead.
Make a motion to approve line item transfer 2425-07 for $20,000 to use the ARP funds for retaining planning assistance for the town.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion to approve the line item transfer 2425-08 for $9,399.60 to use ARP funds to fund the recreation treadmill replacement capital project scheduled for fiscal year 26.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carries.
Make a motion to approve line item transfer number 2425-09 for $64,435.40 to use ARP funds to fund the public works pickup truck replacement scheduled for fiscal year 26.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Make a motion to approve the line item transfer 2425-10 for $87,000 to use the ARP funds to fund the park's wide width mower replacement scheduled for fiscal year 26.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carries. Unanimous.
Make a motion to approve the line item transfer 2425-11 for $33,357.87 to use ARP funds to fund the park's baseball grooming machine capital project scheduled for fiscal year 26.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Carries.
Motion to approve the line item transfer 2425-12 for $25,500 to use ARP funds to fund the center sidewalk project administrative services required by the state grant.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Motion to approve line item transfer 2425-13 for $40,000 to use the ARP funds to fund this center sidewalk project representative to oversee the construction of the town's on the town's behalf.
I'll second that too.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carries.
Motion to approve the line item transfer 2425-14 for $39,510 to use ARP funds to fund the playground improvements at Beecher Road School.
Second? All in favor? Discussion? All in favor? Sorry.
Let's vote.
Motion to approve line item transfer 2425-15 for $66,897.44 to use ARP funds to fund the police vehicle replacement project scheduled for fiscal year 26.
Second.
Oh, David?
Goes to David.
I want to make this, the minutes
Discussion.
as complicated as possible.
I think I was a little bit late.
All in favor?
A motion to approve line item transfer 2425-16 for $13,260 to fund the installation of ADA compliant security doors at Beecher Road School.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
And a motion to approve line item transfer 2425-17 for $17,720 to use ARP funds to fund a change order for the cupola restoration project.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Tony, thank you so much for this work. These
Oh,
are really
great.
great
Awesome.
projects.
Really,
You're welcome.
really good work.
Really
welcome.
good stuff.
And thank you for reading all those off.
Glad, yeah, we don't, yeah.
Name them
And
all
I think
twice.
it bears mentioning to the public that we have discussed all of these before, so going through the motions the way we did was more a matter of process than necessarily the particulars of what we were doing, so thank you all. All right, Tony, next
Okay.
item.
So the next item, there are two items to purchase off state contract. This is the bid portion of the process. The first is the police vehicle, and the second is the public works truck. So the, hold on a second here.
And I can make a motion, then we can have more discussion. I'll move to have to forego the bid process and utilize MHQ to purchase a 2025 Ford utility police vehicle.
And Public Works?
And also to forego the bid process and utilize Jen Grass Ford to purchase a Ford 350 plow truck.
Second.
Or a second?
And I just want to note that both of those vendors are on state contract, and we're utilizing state contract for that.
Any other questions? All in favor? Thank you. Carries.
Okay. The next is to utilize Sourcewell, which is a contract we've used before for the purchase of, which is a more of a national contract for the purchase of a Toro Groundmaster wide width mower for $87,000 and the baseball grooming machine. That's the request.
We'll make the motion to forego the bid process to purchase a mower and sand pro machine under the Sourcewell contract.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Okay. Okay. That's it for the ARP portion. The next two are bid waivers for other items that are not related to ARP. The first is, I'm gonna find this.
The salt.
The salt, yeah.
Yep.
First is treated salt, which we use each year for our roads, and this is an annual item for us.
I'll make the motion to forego the bid process to purchase treated salt from Morton Salt as the sole source of purchasing.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
And the
Has that
la-
been, never mind.
Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, is that price increasing like other things?
No, actually, I believe he says it in his memo that it's,
Oh, yeah, he did, he
yeah,
did,
it
yes.
has not increased,
Thank you.
amazingly. The next item is the Human Services Department has received a grant for the purchase of a new vehicle. Historically, they've received police vehicles, which have been in this really a state of disrepair when they get them, and have been problematic, right, Karen? So they don't usually last too long, and there's usually a lot of repairs involved. So the Human Services Director was able to secure a grant, which is mentioned in her letter, for the purchase of a Subaru off-state contract. And it's through the American Rescue Plan's state fiscal recovery program. It's through it's funds that are filtered through the state and not directly to us, which is why it was not part of your previous discussion. And so she applied for that and was awarded that grant. So this is to purchase the car off-state contract.
I do have a question. I'm just curious.
Motion first?
I'll make I'll make the motion, and then I do have this discussion. I'll make the motion to forego the bid process and utilize Gengrass Subaru to purchase a 2025 Subaru Forester for Human Services.
Second.
I'm just curious. I was wondering if the funds were somehow connected to Subaru. Most of our
So
our
why is it a
vehicles-
Subaru?
Why
you're
is it a
wondering?
Subaru?
I can
Most
tell you
of our
that
vehicle purchasing
because
is a
of
Ford and-
how low it is to the ground. It's the easiest for seniors to get in and out of. I asked that exact
it's a vehicle.
question.
I used to drive a Subaru Forester. I now don't drive a Subaru Forester, but it was 10 years old and I moved on to something else. But I was just curious, since most of our vehicles tend to be American made, they tend to be Fords. I was just curious how through this we ended up with a.
Might have been.
They, I guess doing their research, they've, that's the
Yeah,
one that they
well, it was
preferred.
interesting to see it. I was just curious. I know
Yeah.
sometimes they will do their own grants for these things, so I was curious if it came from Subaru somehow. Or...
Have you, so is that true that
Yes,
it's actually
yes,
very
yes,
low to the
very-
ground?
Yeah, it's easy to get into. And
Yeah.
It's a reliable vehicle. No
Yeah.
problem with it. I was just curious.
Yeah.
It's a good height to the ground. You don't have to go up like an SUV, but you
Correct.
don't go down like some of the sedans.
Right.
So it's like.
It's a nice, it's the
Yeah.
best height, I guess, for that other
It's a good
senior
one.
centers use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tony, the memo also mentions that the center's fundraising account is also contributing?
Correct.
Yeah?
The funds that they received from the
Living Treasure.
Living Treasure, right?
Yay, Living Treasures again.
They
Wonderful.
give and they give.
Yeah, look at
So, and
that.
this is also an item that's been in your
Great.
capital budget, if you've probably seen before.
With plaintive, presentations that they need
Right.
a new car, so this
Right.
is wonderful.
So this is another example of,
They went out and found the
they went out and found the
Very
funds for
good.
it, correct?
Yeah,
Very
it's
good.
great.
All right.
So it was moved and seconded.
Motion second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Very good.
Carries.
Okay, thank you. And the last item is the SLR contract that we discussed earlier. And I just provide the contract for your review. It has those two items in there that we mentioned. And I think it would just be helpful if you can just vote to accept this contract with its the different amounts, added amounts in it, so that we can move forward on this.
We've already approved the funds,
You've done the funds, yeah.
so at
right.
this point in time, we're just going with the contract.
Yeah, so I'll make the motion to approve the contract amendment for the additional drainage services for Amity Road, Bradley Road, and Lucy Street complete streets improvements.
Second.
Any discussion? I did want to mention that SLR did reach out to the state about the drainage pipes that the state owns and maintains. And they sent us back a report indicating that there was work that needed to be done on those and that the state would fund the necessary work for them to do that as
Right.
part of what's going. So there's positive, we're seeing positive results already in terms of. Progress. Yes, exactly. And they indicated that there was some issues, there were some concerns
That
with,
they're
with,
filled.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically with silt.
That they're filled with silt, basically.
So
A
this
little
should
bit of
help.
an issue.
So,
Yeah. So this might be some relief for the folks who are experiencing flash flooding and
Right.
that sort
Correct.
of thing. down
correct,
there.
it could be,
So that's
but there's
great.
other things that are, obviously, the engineering in this drainage study will also tell us to make sure that it's cared for.
So it's also money very well spent.
Yeah.
With that, do we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is the board and commission appointments. We have three positions that we're looking for.
The Cablevision Advisory Council?
Yes,
Can we
please.
start there? Well,
Mhm.
motion to reappoint Cindy Gerber to the Cablevision Advisory Board of Southern Connecticut for a term commencing on January 21, this is meant to say 2025.
What is the Cable Vision Advisory?
24, 25?
Cablevision, the cable companies have
24.
historically provided, well, let's get the
Yeah.
second and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Do we have a second? I'll second.
I'm not gonna second something I don't know what it is.
The cable advisory is very specific to, in our area, it's always been Cablevision, now known as Altice, now also known as Optimum.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the cable companies had for all intent and purposes, had a monopoly, for lack of a better word, in terms of that service. So they would have an outreach to the community through the municipality for different things that they were doing, for input and things of that nature. So it's what it sounds like, but it was very specific. It is very specific to the company. And we have been working with them for quite a number of years, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And
We have, a long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
so Cindy has been on,
You were on that, weren't you?
I'm sorry, Gerber.
Gerber.
I think Gerber
Yep.
has been on this for a while, but we did not appoint her back, this wasn't one of the commissions that I was aware of.
Is it a commission?
It's a advisory board, or council.
Yeah, it's usually done when
it's-
we do the appointments.
It's done not with the appointments of the commission, it's part of like the appointments of every, all the,
regional
yes, yes. So it truly is just,
Is it like an ad hoc committee, or is it just a?
Yeah.
is
So
it
the
like-
important thing is that this is the fund that you have to contribute to in your cable bill.
yes.
That money is controlled by this group. And that is where we get the grants to do like the
That's the
sound
grant
system.
we're gonna use to do the room.
The
Yeah.
money I said we were gonna use to do the room is coming from that.
So we need representatives on this board so they can vote in favor of our
Correct.
applications.
They only
So-
meet, they
so
only
if-
meet like
if it-
twice a year, they don't meet very often, and
It's usually a dinner meeting.
it's usually a dinner meeting.
It's very nice.
That's it.
So if there's money involved, they are essentially a commission, right? Because isn't that one of the definitions?
Yeah, it's
of
like the
making it a
But it's
tourism
not-
board.
It's not our money, it's the cable,
money through
cable
tax.
company
Yeah,
giving
it's
the
a
money.
regional,
and-
it's a regional
yeah.
commission?
representation.
Yeah, interesting.
We're supposed to have 3 seats on it, yeah.
Sounds good.
So there's generally 3 members, and Cindy, at this point in time, is the only acting member. And so we want to make sure that she's official, and then we have, I think, another appointment as well,
We have 2 more.
2 more,
Yep.
to fill it out. So, any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
I'll make the motion to appoint Noah Schurnow to the Cable Vision Advisory Board of Southern Connecticut for a term commencing January 1, 2024.
I'll second.
Any thoughts, questions? All in favor?
I'll make a motion to
Carries.
appoint David Bryce to the Cable Vision Advisory Board of Southern Connecticut for a term commencing January 1, 2024.
Second? Any questions? All in favor? Thank you.
Can I flag before we go to sustainability that that is an ad hoc? And we usually don't vote on ad hocs?
Sustainability remains an ad hoc committee, that is correct.
Just for consistency's sake. So do you want to just name those people into the record?
Yeah.
Person?
Sure.
I don't know.
I'd like to appoint Von Huntington to the Sustainability Committee along with Stephanie Pennington to act as members of the Sustainability Committee. Thank you. And library?
The library is a 9-member commission, and there's currently 1 vacancy, which will have an appointment tonight. And just for notes, there's currently 5 Ds, 2 Us, and 1 R on the commission. The
And
motion-
this is a position replacing the late Dick Blackwell.
So I'll make the motion to appoint Miriam Gohara to the Library Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2025.
I'll second it. Thoughts? All in favor? Thank you. Before the consent agenda, I'd like to just ask for a motion to amend the agenda. To amend the agenda, I think we need to, well, we didn't receive the
tax
refund.
tax refund list prior to the,
So this morning,
Till this
the
morning.
audit Pat's been busy, so
so we weren't able to get that, but I believe it has been added to the information that you received. At this
I'll make
meeting.
a motion to add to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Or, motion carries. So with that,
Right, so the tax refund did end up in our packet. I was able to look through that. I'll make the motion to approve the refund of property taxes for the amount of $19,158.31 in accordance with state statute section 12-129.
Second.
discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
It's nice to have those little things in the packet.
Is that in
with
the
star
consent
that says
agenda?
It's brand new.
No, it wasn't in the consent, so rather than add it to the consent
could add
agenda,
it to consent.
we added it as its own. It usually is in the consent agenda, but we didn't have it. So now we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there any comment in regard to the consent agenda in terms of anything that should be taken out, or any questions or comments related to that? With that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. That ends our agenda items.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
8:16 PM.
Well, that's a.